Dylan, today is today. I'm as excited as ever. How are we getting on? Archer Aviation's Q4 full year 2025 earnings. What we feeling?
Honestly, I feel like I'm a little bit of a bobblehead over here, just kind of doubling down on your sentiment. Again, I want to say that the first part of the day was calm. I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit of what was going on in the market while I was kind of feeling calm. And now that we're getting to 328, 329, hitting 330, the excitement is fully there. And yeah, fully geared up for this earnings call. Yeah, what are you thinking? How's your day?
I am so excited. I keep refreshing X every 2 minutes, but I genuinely think we're going to get an announcement after hours, maybe some footage of N704AX flying. Look, I've hyped myself up so much, so it's only myself that's going to be disappointed. And guys, don't think it's a failure if they don't share footage there. I want to show, I'm just going to put it up on screen. This can be the weirdest way I've ever done it before, but I'm just going to bang it up on screen there. So we got that picture there yesterday.
Nice.
From Adam of N704AX in the hover position with a pilot on board. Now, I've had so many people come to me and say, how do you know they've actually vertically took off? Well, all rotors are facing upwards, yeah? So they've either vertically taken off, or what people don't want to concede is they've transitioned into that position. I don't believe they've transitioned into that position, but for them to have a pilot on board, which you can clearly see there, and for all rotors to be facing upwards, they have vertically taken off with N704AX. Look, we did have a viewer say there was 59 days left there a few weeks back, and it did make me a little bit nervous that we wouldn't complete this in Q1. I am very confident we'll complete this in Q1, this transition. If we don't complete the transition, I think it'll be very close into Q2. I don't think I'm expecting any delays with transition. Again, look, I'm not gonna defend Archer here. They did say Q1. They have pushed back from Q4. So I would be disappointed if we don't get it done in Q1. How are you feeling about it, Dylan? Do you think we're going to get this transition? Do you think we're going to get any exciting news after hours that we don't know anything about? Or do you think it's just going to be same old business?
It's kind of an interesting spot to be in when we get the news yesterday and we get the pictures of the pilot and looking in to it. And when you say if we're going to get exciting news today, it's just kind of crazy how in this industry the exciting news can come just as quick as less than 24 hours ago. And just our pilots are they're so ready for that next thing or that next showcase and next show off. If there was no video footage today, I'm honestly not going to be disappointed in not seeing that today. We did, to all accounts, meaning not X accounts, but like in the saying of like to all accounts that we would know, the pictures that were taken were in-air pictures. So I'm taking that as picture slash video slash picture evidence that 704AX, just like you said, was able to sit in the air just as displayed in the photo. And, for me, I was talking with Liam a little bit right before we got started and just kind of curious for a gentleman like Miles, who goes by the name The Jet Guy on X, and just curious how it is for him kind of going in and out of traditional previous flights that he's been in to maybe now being offered an opportunity to get that aircraft to be able to VTOL up into the air. And then, looking at that possible transition flight going forward in Q1. I do agree with you. Unless there's something that we hear on the call today that would really bring like a solid reason for the cadence of that being pushed back, and something that we would hear maybe in a different kind of test envelope that again would fit into the mold of what the full picture of 704AX being able to do as an aircraft. I would say that would be about the littlest wiggle room I could give for them bumping off a VTOL transition flight. But I think, as today closes and as tomorrow opens up, we kind of look at Q1 and having those 3 months to have accomplishable goals that we have heard from the past, just like you said, and that we may hear about, some more today as well. So definitely looking for it. Gut says Q1. And yeah, I think it's going to be an amazing catalyst once we not only get the VTOL transition, but also with anything from the Archer PR team, who would be putting out any video related to any of the VTOL transactions that have happened already. Basically meaning any of the VTOL flight envelope that has happened already, because I think that's something on the video end that's really exciting for the investors and anybody, for myself, that really just enjoys learning and studying more about the company. So yeah, more video evidence to come, but pleased with what they've done to lead us into the call.
Guys, we're starting to build up numbers there. Smash that subscribe button. I will do a giveaway. As long as I don't get done for spam again in this call, I will do a giveaway in this stream. So bang that subscribe button. Make that clock up there spin. It will go to subscriber only once the call starts. We are the largest, most active Archer Aviation community. That's why we're wearing Archer Aviation merch. Will we get Adam on? Very confident we will. So bang that subscribe button to make sure you don't miss it.
I like that.
Bag says, why are the props not showing in every picture? From my understanding, there's 2 pictures. The second one looks edited. That it's just a flip version of the original one with the background taken out. So I'm going to show you the original picture. And I think they're trying to show that the pilot is flying on board. So it'd be very hard to stand under an aircraft, show that the pilot's on board, and also show the back of the plane, my guy.
That is fair. That is fair.
But good observation.
And also just really quick with that too, Bag, and just for any of the investors, as they were kind of coming off of, 302AX and moving to 703AX, there was time where they were doing testing with 2 blades in the back, and we know that then they transitioned to really going with the 4 that would be going for the conforming aircraft. But only to say that I think, internally, that they've proven out the tech to themselves, and I wouldn't see it specifically as something trying to pull a wool over our eyes by not showing a tail end of that picture. So I think you're spot on with, being able to really highlight that pilot was on board was a great thing, and a great thing for you, Liam, that you were able to catch in that yesterday.
Then Zhang Perk, I hope I pronounced your name correctly there, says, do you think they'll release the video? I am banking on it that they're going to release the video as the market closes. I think it'll build excitement. I don't expect a transition. I want to put that clear out there now. I don't expect transition for this call, but I think the transition is only weeks away. Then IVW says, why are the covers not on wheels? Yeah, so Adam said it was all to do with they were testing the landing gear. So he said, got to see our main landing gear articulating as expected in a piloted takeoff and landing. Yeah. Great stuff, but the fairings are going back on. Yeah. Jean came back and said that the fairings will be back on, which is correct. Max, big shout out, my guy. He's a big supporter.
Hello.
So how are we getting on? Hi, everyone. Did you hear the news? Adam is allegedly going to fly inside a midnight aircraft for the earnings. Are you going covering the earnings release for beta on the 9th? Yes, we will, my guy. Don't worry about that. You believe it's going to be huge. Market expectations for Archer are negative 24 cents, and Adam's a Wall Street guy, so he believes it'll come in at negative 20 cents. Guys, do let us know. Oh my God. Liam is setting the bar way too high. Disappointment incoming. On what?
When I think that, we build ourselves as much up as we can. I think something that, Liam, you've been great for me, I will say, is, kind of looking at Archer, and whether it's, talking about other eVTOL companies as well, and just seeing the milestones and certain catalysts that are being hit, but also kind of to frame my mind also that certain catalysts, and we've spoke about like, and to you, you've spoke about like FAA, I'm sorry, the eIPP not being the end of the road. You might have a spike price for that catalyst with inside the ticker, but that not being the end. So, I think you, and even credit to somebody like Bag, from a year ago, who's always kind of keeping those expectations tempered. So again, when we're seeing that pilot on that VTOL flight, again, don't have to kind of race around and figure out, why haven't we got the video footage of it and kind of all that good stuff. And again, maybe let the company kind of play that out, as, Archer kind of sits in that weird spot where if they show too much, they're doing too much press and giving too much press release. And if they're not showing us anything, they apparently can't have a aircraft that VTOLs. So, I think for a Sunday evening, it was a nice nod pre-earnings call. And they had a beautiful video on Hawthorne previous that they did on the last earnings call. So yeah, I'm locked with you on being curious on what they start to come out with at market close. So I'm with you on that.
Guys, there's about 300 of you between X and YouTube. Bang that like button. Keep us growing. Let's get the guests bigger and bigger. Also, let me know what you think we will hear at earnings. What you expect? Want to be a good earnings? Want to be a disappointing earnings? Do let us know. C. Jernigan, one of our members here, says, I'm still keeping track. It's been a while since my last live. I've been buying some every week. Keep up the great work, guys. And you know what? Thank you so much for the support.
Big thank you. That's awesome.
Everyone, did you know that eVTOLs generate significantly less heat than ice chopers? This makes them exponentially harder to target with heat-seeking missiles. Now, that's a big thing I want to maybe hear a little bit about earnings. I know it's a hard one because a lot of the project is confidential, but I want to hear a little bit more about Andrew. And I wonder, will they steer into that now with this ongoing conflict happening in Iran? We know they have they're licensing out the powertrain for Anduril and Edge for the Oman drone.
Yeah.
We know the project's going ahead with Anduril and GKN in the UK. And then Archer and Anduril are going for the hybrid VTOL. And I did share it there yesterday that Elon put up, let me double check it. Yeah. Elon put up a tweet, and I did put a few extras on it. So Elon said, number one, drones were a major factor in this attack. And number two, long-range drones, now highlight that bit there, long-range drones and hypersonic missiles will be the only weapons that matter when fighting an opponent several tech levels below you. Aircraft with people in them will unfortunately become unalive very quickly. So I then put up to that. Wonder why Archer are developing the Omen drone with Anduril and Edge. Wonder why Archer and Anduril developing the hybrid VTOL. It's all starting to make sense. Archer gone in heavy into autonomy recently with the partnerships with NVIDIA, Palantir, and now with Starlink. And for anyone that doesn't believe that Starlink is going to be anyway involved in autonomy, remember I broke down why Joby's S4 was doing autonomous flights and they were using the redundant communication systems. Well, they said once you get over 1,000 of them, you need to use 6G network. The only ones covering these mobile 6G networks are AST Space Mobile and Starlink. And there we go.
Nailed it.
And Mitt says, whole conference call will have info on 6 VTOLs under production, Hawthorne revenue, and 50 powertrain revenue. Them 50 units, if we start getting revenue from that, that will be exciting.
That is very true.
6 under production. I don't want anyone to feel disappointed with this. My belief is that they will stay in final assembly until we will push through certification. There's no point rolling these out when we're not completely happy with the finished product of the Midnight. Same with the S4. It's why you're not seeing them double the capacity this year, and I think they're going for next year because I think they're starting to move the target to certification next year. With Joby, I believe, pushing back to 2027. Are Archer going to still aim for 2027, do you believe? Or do you think we're going to push more into that 2028 timeframe? I think eIPP is a massive part to play because it's a vital tool they can utilize before going to market.
I agree. And, it's a tough thing, and as they put on the prepared remarks, all of the companies reserve the right to change statements and change guidance. And, these are forward looking statements. Now, unless Archer behind the door, unless Team Archer knew that a certain certification catalyst would not be coming, let's say until early 28, and they just knew for a fact that 2026 or 2027 was off the table, or if it was late 27. If they have that knowledge and they're willing to share that guidance, again, maybe that would be a 6-month, 9-month delay in the timeline that initially as investors we might take as kind of that shock that we would not have liked to hear on that call. But again, I would have to appreciate a little bit of the honesty in that pushback of the guidance if that was to come out. And really my target again here is nailing in on the US soil 2028. And meaning, again, being able to showcase these aircraft at scale at the LA Olympics. Again, minimally or maximally, depending again where we're at with the development of bipartisan bills, FAA support, Duffy, the eIPP, and kind of the way that grows and shapes. So again, a year from now, will we be operating under the eIPP, or will certain kind of be it through the FAA approvals, will there be different kind of regulations and different airspace opening? And again, something that would be interesting to hear again is about the ATC system. So to hear if there is any timeline of integration of that ATC system basically into the airspace. And, again, whether that's just designing more of I say just very, very like it's an easy thing, but designing more of that low altitude mobility kind of area where you're like in that 1,500 to 4,000 altitude level in your flights versus, again, an ATC system that would be a more in-depth project that we have yet to learn about either from Palantir calls or hearing that on the Archer side as well. So yeah, 2028. Yeah, let's ramp up for it.
To give an update, guys, Archer is currently sitting at 750, so we've gone healthily into that $7 range. We're 5.27% up in the day. This is why I said yesterday that, I might have said that after the stream today.
Go for it.
That I thought eVTOLs would go green. I didn't think it would be only Archer Aviation. I didn't think this conflict would do what we believed was going to happen. Everyone expected it to go down, and sometimes when everyone expects it to go down, everyone rushes into just secure their shares. So we did get a massive push up today. Like speaking across board, Joby up 1.54%, Racing Aircraft up 4.1%.
Nice.
Even Vertical Aerospace up 0.94%. Beta pushed massively, 6.33%. So,
what's interesting too with that, Liam, is if you looked at the prediction markets and such, and this is something, and again, I kind of want to give the reference credit as I was watching the Mids Open today, where it did kind of bring some color and context to maybe why the market had been choppy over the last 3 weeks, and there was really nothing kind of settling in, and some of the kind of tech was really kind of getting those 30, 40, 50% drawdowns. Even some in the beta names were definitely getting drawn down as well. And, it seems like that, war was maybe inevitable, or the strike was maybe inevitable. And, maybe the market was digesting that at particular times. And again, me being newer on the retail side of the market, and again, for context, I'm a 9-to-5 worker. I'm on leave right now, so no worries about the work side. But just again, kind of learning where, I think if we're just kind of speaking existentially, we all want peace and, everything to be good. But during these times, some of these dips are the ones that end up being the ones that can be more V-shaped in the recovery. Again, unless it's more of the long drawn out wars. And Archer itself, it's kind of interesting where you have the defense angle in Archer. So again, although, again, unless it's the Omen drone, and we may learn more about that, where that's taken place and had impact to any resolution or any of the conflict. But where Archer, really can be seen to an investor's eye or in the rotation of if somebody's rotating towards defense, does Archer start to play in that rotation of defense? And then again, once you have the rotation out of defense, you have this speculative high beta growing industry company, Archer Aviation, who also kind of falls in that basket. So again, I would say probably more in the basket of the latter, high beta, speculative. But as they continue to do the partnerships, not just with Andrew, but also, like you're saying, over with GKN, looking at Project Nix. So those are all kind of interesting defense aspects during these times for Archer as well. But like you said, all the eVTOLs did seem to catch a bid today, which was nice too.
This seems to be a little bit of a hard thing to say, but do you think Archer as a company are benefiting more from this conflict that's going on in the Middle East over the likes of Joby Aviation? I think Joby Aviation are kind of stuck in the mud at the moment because it's going to put a spanner in the works when it comes to going into Dubai and the UAE, especially
That's fair.
we don't know how long that's going to last. I don't believe it's going to last that long. I think Trump's going to fairly put a stamp on it. But where Archer have recently been focusing very heavily on the likes of defense, and we know, look, Elon said it himself that is the way that combat is going. It's going into these unmanned drones, as we can say, but it doesn't even have to be unmanned. We even seen them 3 fighter pilots that unfortunately came down.
Sure.
And they need medical attention. So
sure.
Wouldn't this be ideal for the likes of an S4 or Midnight to go in a hybrid of them? And look, with the hybrid, you also get to not have to worry too much about if electrical supplies go down. You get a much longer distance, and these are much quieter aircraft. Now, I believe they will be a lot louder with a gas turbine on board, but still the fans spin a lot slower than the likes of a helicopter. Max, I'm not putting that comment up on screen.
And again, to the traditional eVTOL, it was always, again, it was low thermal, low acoustic, and low thermal. So again, that was all supposed to play into that low thermal reading. So again, but I don't want to mix and match what will be a possible commercial aircraft on the Archer Aviation side versus what will go in and be built out for the hybrid version that will go in and play more probably into the Andrew. And again, something that we had talked about, I would say, 2 eVTOL weeklies ago. So again, if anybody's new here, we do a eVTOL weekly every Sunday. And really it's an opportunity for everybody in the community to get together and vent and enjoy and just kind of come together and kind of figure out what happened in the last week of the industry and figure out what's going on forward. But yeah, definitely. Anyway, losing thought, but to the low thermal and acoustic kind of playing into everything that the eVTOLs were talking about initially.
Guys, not even 10% of you will smash the like button. If we get them likes above 50%, I'll reach out to Archer and see if we can give away merch like this. I've seen some of you in the comments the last day asking where we bought them. I don't think you can buy them. If someone can let me know if you can buy them, I'm going to put the link up on the screen, but I don't think you can buy them. So again, want to thank Adam and Tim so much for sending us merch out.
And I'm not gonna lie, the quality is actually really nice too. Like I wish you guys could like reach through and like feel the shirt. Like it's a nice shirt. I'm not gonna lie, it's a nice package. So yeah, big thank you. And Yeah, if anybody's listening, I think you stamped it, Liam, where, it would be very nice to be able to reward the retail investors, and the ones that, are so tapped in and enjoy not just kind of hearing about the news, but really digesting that, informing their thesis as well. So totally agree with you.
No, I'm currently refreshing
Yeah.
Archer Aviation's X to see if anything is coming out. But at the moment, market is still open. What are we looking at going towards the closing bell? Archer is still at 754, still climbing 5.9% up.
Nice.
Again, guys, like I said in the Joby Aviation's earning call, you're either in or you're out. Do not worry and do not even attempt to start. Look, not financial advice, do whatever you want,
Right,
but
right.
I wouldn't attempt to start buying after hours. You get put into all sort of traps. After hours, you get institutes buy in, you get them sell out. Anyone, if it's your first earnings, what normally happens? You either get a big move to the upside or a big move to the downside. We then do a reverse and go the other way. So
That is true.
sometimes when it goes down, it's better because it's going to go up, and sometimes we'll continue on that downward trend.
Yeah.
This is an interesting one to
really go for it.
I don't want to scare people off.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts about any type of dilution occurring?
Okay, I like that.
And I
like
said it
that.
4 minutes before, so if anyone wants to panic sell now, they can.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I gut feeling, head and heart. I don't think that we're going to hear that there's going to be any dilution that's going to take place in the next 4 minutes on this call or leading into this week. The reason I say that is in the last earnings call, they felt like they were cash heavy enough to really stretch themselves through 2026. So I wouldn't say that as we get to maybe in the September range, maybe the later half, kind of last third or last quarter or so of the year, not to look at the possibility of dilution, but I would also look to see not necessarily why they're diluting, but why they had to dilute. And I think something that I've been bouncing around with Liam and Liam's been bouncing around with me is we've seen that Archer is very much one that wants to stay as the top, basically the one that holds the top cash position in the industry. They feel like that's going to show good for government backing and be able to basically have that support, and they wouldn't be short on liquidity if needed for their aircraft. Now, if we do look at Archer, if they start expanding out the Georgia production facility, if there is any other space, like let's say in the UK, if there is any talks or any build out of any space, any manufacturing or anything that they're doing over on the UK side, if they're going to be putting 300 million into it, I would look at maybe a possible $500 million dilution coming. If they're putting 500 million into it, I'd maybe look at like 650 to 750 dilution. So I wouldn't even, I wouldn't take it dollar for dollar. I would even say that they would maybe dilute to gain maybe an extra 100 million off that. But no, going into 4 o'clock, not immediately hearing anything. I am kind of curious, the last call after Hawthorne was announced, we had a flash crash that probably lasted a minute. It felt like 5 minutes. It was probably 20 seconds. But I think it flashed down to like 581 or something. Yeah. It was flashed down, and I think I'm with you, Liam, where the equity has been purchased. We'll ride through this call and see what happens on it. But not financial advice. If everything in the company is still the same, but the market flash crashes this thing down, I'm talking like 20 and 30%. I might keep my phone next to me just to be curious about, what to do. Meaning for me, myself, that would be adding more to my position. Again, speaking with company thesis and everything still intact of what we thought was going on yesterday and moving into tomorrow. But yeah, I think it's one of those times where, maybe we don't fret so much about these stock prices. Now, I know, again, some people will be more in a day trading or swing trading, so that may come more into effect. And as that may be less important for me on the share price today to what it's going to be when I wake up tomorrow, I don't want to put aside anybody that would kind of really be, really be important to their profile and their way of investing, to see which way that ends up going. But no, very, very excited. I think even as we went into last Friday and we were still getting positive news, yet we hadn't had got the confirmed VTOL tweet that had gone out. There's always the options that are going in. We know that Archer's heavily shorted. So as you're coming up on any Friday, there's always a chance that the market maker can come in, push the price down a little bit, and make sure that some options that were just in the money, are now expiring at zero. So, I don't have the power to do that. I cannot move or make the market, unfortunately, for anybody. But yeah, riding in position set, and let's see, ring the bell. Market is closed.
Yes, market's closed right now. Archer did finish. Let me double check here. 751, 5.55%.
Not a bad day.
Now, what are we looking like after hours? Because I am pretty confident that the institutes do get it. They say they don't, but I'm pretty sure. That's quite flat at the moment. Leonard says,
that's okay.
Don't forget the dollar is going up as well, so double plus today.
Good job.
Simone says, Stellantis banned me from Reddit because I was happy Archer Aviation to invest more. Okay, so Simone, if you want somewhere to chat, do jump across to. We have, I need to take that off the screen. We've created a website, www.thehustlebrothers.co.uk. We've created like a social media platform where it looks a little tiny bit like Reddit, maybe a little bit different, but you can say what you want. As long as it's all respectful between members, I really don't care whether you're happy, sad, etc. on different events that occur. That's a shameless plug by me there.
But it's, but with that too, Liam, and just real quick, because always whenever Liam talks, he always popping a thought in my head. So I apologize. But really quick, it's one of those, I think one of those places where, we're coming around to where, whether you're a Joby investor, an Archer investor, where I think we're really just trying to break down the walls in those investment communities and realize, you don't have to just be on one side of the fence or other. And just because one of the companies is progressing in this certain lane, that doesn't mean that this, we kind of have to bash the other company as one going up and one hasn't done this, or one partnership is here. And, like even if, Joey was to get a partnership with Palantir, it's like, we could scream on the Archer side and say, oh, but we had that first. But maybe again, if Palantir is partnering with Joby,
shareholders let us out straight away.
Okay, then me not, Well, let's see what we got. My man.
So guys, get ready for this.
Go for it whenever you are ready.
Right. So I need to remove that, and then I need to put this up.
Let's see if we got any EPS news.
Right. So
go for it.
We are looking at shareholder letter highlights piloted VTOL ops track for eIPP and the UAE with expanded midnight fleet targeting first passenger flights in 2026.
Whoa.
Oh.
Okay.
Into that. Up for 0.4%.
Let's see. Nice.
FAA means of compliance, 100% complete, first to achieve this certification milestone for an eVTOL aircraft. So that's a shot at Joby straight away. Expanded defense opportunities, dual-use hybrid aircraft and powertrain sales. Record 2025 year-end liquidity of $2 billion. This is looking extremely good, guys. Dear shareholders, founder Archer Aviation or Archer with the vision to build the first certified electric air taxi division involved over the last 7 years. Today, Archer is the next generation aerospace company building technologies that will power the next 100 years of vertical flight across commercial and defense. It is often forgotten that Archer was founded more than a decade after others in the industry. Mate, they're shooting shots straight away.
I didn't know if they would, but yeah. All
We-
right, keep pressing, go. Yeah, you got it, man.
We entered the development cycle at a key inflection point. The foundational technology were ready for commercialization and was still early enough to help shape the regulatory framework. We did not have legacy tech debt, so we developed a clean sheet design using a first principle approach, focusing on finding. Wait a minute, guys. Can you see that a little bit better? Where was I? We've assembled what we believe to be the best team in the aerospace and gave the clear mandate. I believe our strategy is paying off in ways that the market is only beginning to understand. A few months ago, we added a new Midnight aircraft to our fleet. It completed ground testing faster than any before it and is now flying piloted vertical takeoff and landing operations at our facility in California. Later this year, we plan to deploy an additional piloted Midnight aircraft in American cities through the White House eVTOL integrated pilot program and in the UAE through our commercial launch program. Everything has built over the past 7 years is converging. Let me walk you through how we got here and what to expect in 2026. I'm getting excited now, my guy.
It's kind of beautiful, man. I like it so far. I like it so far.
Flight test manufacturing. Last year, our pilots took Midnight through its CTOL campaign, and this is what everyone was disappointed about. And at the time, I was frustrated until we understood why. Flights over 50 miles in excess of 30 minutes of flight time, altitudes above 10,000 feet, and speeds of 150 miles per hour. The FAA recently issued the newest Midnight aircraft, its special airworthiness certificate, and its piloted VTOL campaign was underway. It will progress through increasingly advanced test points as it works toward a piloted transition flight in the coming months. We will continue to, so that's over the coming months. That's not going to be over the next few weeks.
And also keep in mind, just really quick to add in, that this test campaign could take 10 to 12 months. So we'll see probably different envelopes of that test campaign. But sorry about that, Lee.
No, you're all good. So we'll continue to expand our Midnight fleet and the flight envelope through 2026 with several aircraft in various stages of completion across Georgia and California, supporting their planned TIA activities with the FAA as soon as this year. So commercial launch. On the commercial front, they plan to begin operating Midnight this year, both in American cities as part of the eIPP and the UAE as part of their commercial launch program. Last year, President Trump did sign an executive order unleashing drone dominance that established a White House mandate to accelerate air taxis in American cities. Since then, my team and I have been working directly with the DOT and the FAA to help ensure the program positions their country to lead the world in this new category. We have submitted applications across California, Florida, Texas, Georgia, and New York. So there's your 5 cities again, guys. The first time I saw a Waymo on the road in San Francisco, it was a big deal. Now, self-driving cars are just part of everyday life there. I wonder, does Adam watch the Hollywood Robots?
Hey, if you're out there, what's up, my guy, Adam? I hope you're watching.
That is literally word for word. No, self-driving. Yeah, so I believe that the eIPP will do the same thing for air taxis. Every safe flight builds towards public acceptance, and we need to build that acceptance in parallel with the certification efforts. Our launch program in the UAE is built around the same premise. We've been working closely with the GCAA, the UAE Federal Aviation Regulator, over the past year to determine the most appropriate regulatory pathway. Together, we chose the restricted type certificate approach, and Archer is the first eVTOL manufacturer to establish this pathway with the GCAA. Last year, we initiated hot weather flight testing of Midnight in Abu Dhabi, and this year, we're on track to deliver additional piloted Midnight aircraft for passenger operations. Dylan, that's passenger operations again. In parallel, the team continues to build out the results of the vertiports across Abu Dhabi. The progress in the US and the UAE continues to catalyze the global demand. Their order book is in the billions, with 7 of the world's largest airliners choosing to partner with them. In Q4, Saudi Arabia's PAF partnered with Archer to deploy aircraft, starting with Red Sea Global. Korean Air selected us as its exclusive partner, and their consortium with Japan Airlines was selected to support commercialization in both Osaka and Tokyo. So this is the one that everyone is getting excited about. Certification. Yeah. This quarter, we reached a key milestone. The FAA confirmed its final acceptance of 100% of the 797 means of compliance for the Midnight aircraft. I believe this makes us the first to achieve the milestone within the FAA. So remember when Joby had that graph and we said, we don't know what these buckets are that they're filling up. They can keep, it's like the loading screen. You don't know what's happening behind the scenes.
I like that. I like that. That's a great metaphor. I love that, Liam.
So I am proud of our team for getting us there first, completing their means of compliance and lacks the ability to finalize the acceptance of their remaining certification plans with the FAA. We expect those to resolve in the coming quarters, clearing the path for TIA work to begin on their Midnight program as soon as this year. So they're catching Joby pretty quickly.
Yep.
To simplify the path to certification, we designed Midnight to be as close to a Part 23 airplane as possible. We chose not to reinvent what did not need reinventing. We vertically integrated only when necessary. That's shots fired. The powertrain and flight control software, because no supply base existed for those, and we partnered with Tier 1 aerospace suppliers for the rest. The results, Midnight requires only 17 issue papers, with 13 being industry standard and 4 unique to the design and battery pack. The more novel the aircraft design, the more issue papers it requires and the more certification risk it carries. We have been disciplined about working within the defined pathway, and discipline is the reason I expect we will continue to progress quickly in others. I'm not going to lie, this is the best presentation I've seen of how certification actually works in the industry.
I agree.
Over the last 7 years that I have learned, the hardest part of designing an eVTOL aircraft is perfecting the balance between performance, certification, and mass manufacturability. You can't design and build an eVTOL that performs beautifully, or you can design and build an eVTOL that performs beautifully, but try certify it, and meeting the FAA standards often requires you to add complexity and weight. The weight hurts performance, and the complexity makes it harder to manufacture at scale. What have we been banging on about the last 3 weeks?
Exactly that.
The design falls on its face. The key is solving all 3 simultaneously, and that is what we as an industry are all grappling with. Midnight's aft propellers are a design trade we get asked about. Okay, so here we go. Everyone wants Adam to answer this. He's answered that.
There you go.
Our team explored 2, 3, and 4-bladed option. 2-blade carried the most mechanical complexity and required dampeners and added weight. 4-bladed eliminated the dampeners, saving weight but impacted drag. Because the 2-bladed solution increased complexity in ways that made the aircraft harder to certify and manufacture, we chose 4-blade. 4 reduces complexity, makes certification more straightforward, and maintains manufacturability with minimum performance impact. That is as simple as it goes. It's not 2-blade don't work and 4-blade don't. As we said over the past few weeks, it's all about the best performing aircraft you can certify.
Yes, sir.
Another design choice worth explaining, we built Midnight to certify both vertical and conventional takeoff and landing. VTOL is what makes air taxis possible in cities. But CTOL capability gives Midnight 2 distinct advantages. First, safety. In an emergency, Midnight can land conventionally without putting pilots and passengers at risk. Second, operational flexibility. A conventional takeoff uses far less energy than the vertical one.
Mm-hmm.
Adam, can I write this for you, my guy?
Oh my God, this is yeah. No, I won't stop you, man. I got it. You.
So when a runway is
Mm-hmm.
available on a one-leg trip, we'll have the option to use it, extended range and reduce in charge time.
Mm-hmm.
These are the kind of pragmatic design choices we have made, and I believe will give Midnight a winning hand. Okay, defense. This is going to be exciting.
Nice.
These the defense industry is shifting. It's focusing from expensive, exquisite systems to
Mm-hmm.
autonomous, attritable platforms built for scale. On the fixed wing side, you have already seen with the collaborative combat aircraft like Andrew's Fury, designed to fly alongside existing piloted fighter jets. The same transformation is common to rotor aircraft, and this is the opportunity they're trying to seize. The partnership with Anduril is core to the defense strategy, and it continues to accelerate. We're designing an autonomous hybrid VTOL aircraft built for dual use. For defense, it will fly alongside armed reconnaissance attack helicopters as a loyal wingman.
Mm-hmm.
The aircraft is designed to meet the needs of the US and its allies for decades to come. For commercial customers, the aircraft is to be tailored for cargo or medevac. So look, I was wrong there. I didn't think they'd be going for cargo, but then that is the hybrid VTOL, isn't it? So you are
True.
getting the performance back. To support this effort, we opened a new engineering hub in Bristol, UK, and have already hired a team of 20 plus local engineers. I need to get to that facility, guys. I need to go there. It's only about an hour away.
Oh, you'll be there.
We have also found select opportunities to adapt proprietary technologies and build for their commercial aircraft and bring them to other applications. In November, we announced the third-party powertrain deal with Anduril and Edge Group to power their own autonomous vehicle. Anduril spent 5 years searching for a propulsion solution for them, and they chose ours because our powertrain de-risks their path to scale production. Don't you love it when all the pieces just seem to be coming together on absolutely everything? And this is putting the nails down. Autonomy. Autonomy in aviation is fundamentally different from autonomy on the ground. With cars, the challenge is building systems that handle the entire. This is where he's explaining the whole thing and the whole dynamic around every decision he's making.
It's very nice. I really like the way that he has elaborated. And yeah, I'll say more, but yeah, go for it, Liam. You're knocking it out, man.
With cars, the challenge is building systems that handle the entire task or driving task end to end. In aviation, autopilot already manages the vast majority of a commercial flight. Pilots handle taxiing, takeoff, and landing. The challenge is bringing automation to air traffic control systems. Ooh, is this going to be another shot? The current system relies on legacy communications such as VHF voice radio that cannot support the continuous exchange of telemetry, intent, and situational awareness that autonomy requires. President Trump, one big, beautiful bill, allocated a historic $2.5 billion to modernize the air traffic control system in the US. Autonomy requires modern data backbone to support continuous exchange of telemetry, intent, and situational awareness between aircraft, ground stations, and supporting infrastructure. We are working to build a full stack solution that will help to bring autonomy to the airspace and plan to unveil the first software product in this category later this year. And that is different to what Joby said. Joby turned around and said, we're willing to help wherever we can, and told what a future product, what a good future air traffic solution would look like. Archer just came out and said they're developing the product there and then.
They're on the phone call as others are having a line open for the phone to ring.
Then, we are positioning Archer to be ready for the shift and plan to use the recently acquired Hawthorne Airport as a testbed for these technologies. Over the last year, we have put key pieces in place. We partnered with Palantir to build the AI foundational next generation air traffic control movement, or air traffic control, movement control, and route planning. We're working with NVIDIA to integrate IGX4 platform into Midnight, which will enable real-time onboard computing for safety-critical autonomy applications. And we're working with SpaceX Starlink to bring high, low latency connectivity to the aircraft. You cannot build an autonomous aviation system without resilient, high bandwidth connectivity. What did I say before this came out? I mentioned them three in order. Liquidity. We ended Q4 with approximately 2 billion in liquidity, operating in a capital intensive sector that matters. It positions us to fund what matters. Our team knows that every dollar we spend shortens the runway we have to build a generational company. We must continue to be ruthless about cutting anything that does not earn its place. My job is to drive execution, fly aircraft, deploy them in cities, complete certification, scale manufacturing to deliver to customers who are waiting. Thank you to our team, our partners, and government agencies, and all our shareholders that all play a part in our success. Deep tech is extremely challenging, and if you give us the ability to pursue it, I do not take that support for granted, and we will work every day to continue to earn it.
Wow.
Adam Goldstein.
Wow.
Now, someone's telling me that Archer, yes, it's down 4.26% after hours. Don't worry, do not panic. What we said, you can universal. So Archer, the scenes we're looking.
Let's see. One.
Scene.
Let's see what.
Sentinel 4-8 on the runway.
Let's see what we got.
Off and landing flight. That is
some downloads and battery testings.
That's your props. And then
Bristol.
we go forward statements. So let me get back to
nice.
The
This is beautiful. And it's great. It's like in a world of AI where, you know, we could, like, if these never existed, we could like somehow tell, you know, one of these systems to make a photo like this. It's kind of crazy, even looking at the one where they've been doing the sandbox test bed with the GACA. And honestly, it's just, to me, it's beautiful. Even having the 302AX in the picture, seeing it continue to do its flight test regime that was going on over in the UAE. I mean, these pictures, it's a beautiful representation of where the company is at today.
Now, Dylan, your speciality. Do you want to go into the
why not?
figures?
Why not? Yeah, let me scroll down just a little bit. Let me see, Liam. I apologize. Let me go back to let me see if we get it through SEC filings, and let me see if this is gonna pull it up for me. And if I'm slow on it, you feel free to take it over. Let me see. What are you showing? See, okay, you got it. Yeah, you got a better one on your screen. So if you want to start it off, go for it. And then yeah. If you want to start it off, Liam, feel free.
Yeah, so on track for, so we've got through all of that there. We've got through that. That's our limit, that's 100%. So end the quarter with 2 billion in liquidity. Archer ended financial year 25 with 2 billion in liquidity. Archer continues to be disciplined about the spend and met its adjusted EBITDA loss guidance for the quarter. Then we're going down. So going across the financial year, total operating expenses were 729.6. Net loss was negative 618.2. Non-GAAP total expenses were sitting at 502.1. Adjusted EBITDA negative 481.8. Cash and cash equivalents, we are sitting at that beautiful 1.9 billion.
Nice.
Then, so looking across the liquidity financial year 25, cash and cash equivalents and short-term investments of 1964.2 million, an increase of 1.1 billion from financial year 24, and the highest quarter-ending liquidity watermark in Archer's history. Cash used in operating activities was 432.9 million, and cash used for investment in property and equipment 78.8 million. Cash used for acquisitions 152.1 million for the acquisition of Hawthorne and Lilium Over's IP. Cash provided by financing activities 1.7 billion for financial year 2025, primarily driven by 3 registered direct offerings with gross proceeds of 1.8 billion. Then operating expenses and net loss was operating expenses increased 219.9 million from financial year 24 to 729.6 as we continue to invest in the development, test, certification and production activities for the aircraft, with expanded investments in a go-to-market strategy and support infrastructure to enable the early bring up of their air taxi operations globally. The increase in operational expenses included 140.7 million increase in non-cash stock-based compensation expense. The operating expenses increased by 59.9 from Q3 25 to 234.7 million, primarily driven by a 36.1 million increase in non-cash stock-based compensation expenses and other spend related to growing headcount in the supply chain efforts. The net loss for financial year 25 did increase by 81.4 million from 2024's loss to 618.2, primarily driven by 219.9 increase in operational expenses, offset by 107.4 million decrease in non-cash charges within other income expenses. Net and 30.9 million increase in interest income net. Q4 2025 net loss did increase by 59 million from Q3 25 to a loss of 188.9 million, primarily driven by 59.9 million increase in operational expenses as described above. None of you says, man, are burning cash. They're burning cash. Do you know what? This whole industry is going to be burning cash.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you find me an eVTOL company that's not absolutely firing cash down the drain, I'll back them heavily.
And keep in mind, it's also will be interesting to see if they give a full year guidance on the cash spend. And just really quick again for the Joby call, they gave half a year guidance on cash being in the $340 to $370 million spend. So just again, even for Team Joby, it seemed like they were kind of unsure in the S curve, and I don't mean in a negative way, but just as the cash burn does go up. Maybe that's something, again, you don't want to put bad guidance out for the second half of the year if it's unknown. So we'll see if we get the full year as that comes. But no, I agree with you, Liam. It's going to be a cash heavy burn industry at the moment. And that's why the liquidity and the $1 to $2 billion range extremely important. But yeah, sorry to cut you off.
Liam, you said that you definitely expect a video to be released of the VTOL, yet none was. Are you disappointed, to be honest? Mate, I would have been until I actually started reading the shareholder letter. And I'm pretty happy. Don't worry about that, my guy.
Yeah.
Adjusted EBITDA. This is the best in the last 2 years of covering this.
Yeah.
This is the best Archer Aviation shareholder letter I have seen by far, and I think by far in the industry has explained every decision known to man that they've made perfectly. And anyone that wants to fire shots at that, show me where Joby have done it. So don't even get started on this. Adjusted EBITDA. Q4 2025 adjusted EBITDA was a loss of 137.9 million.
In
which was
guidance.
within guidance
Yeah,
range
good
of
call.
110 to 140. The loss was planned increase of 21.8 million over Q3 2025, mainly due to increase in people and vendors related expenses. Financial year 2025 adjusted EBITDA loss increased 112.9 million of financial year 2024 due to the investment and development, test, certification and production activities for the aircraft as mentioned earlier. Looking at Q1 2026 financial estimates. Arch financial estimates for the first quarter 2026 are as follows: adjusted EBITDA to be a loss of 160 to 180 million. We have not reconciled their adjusted EBITDA estimates because certain items that impact non-GAAP metrics are certain or out of the control and cannot be reasonably predicted. In particular, stock-based compensation expenses and changes in fair value of warrants is impacted by the future. Mate, how are you feeling about all this at the moment?
I think, something again, it's, I'm kind of locked with you on that, Liam. And, it's like, again, you're reading my mind and saying the words so clearly and so perfectly. It's, getting this letter, we'll see what happens when the prepared remarks start, whether it's going to be a reread of the shareholder letter or not. But what I love is the explanation which with inside each of the categories. And even like you said, to the CTOL, really giving that the opportunity to tell the investors of why that was happening. I was going to go back up and highlight, so I'll grab that in a second. But it was, yeah, it says Archer design choice. Arthur, I'm sorry. And what I love here is he said another design choice worth explaining. So it's again, he's leaning into, I think, the fact that there has been questions around why was there a CTOL campaign versus the VTOL and 704 versus 703AX capabilities. So he says another design choice worth explaining. We built Midnight to certify both vertical and conventional takeoff and landing. And again, if you look at the front landing gear on that, it was really beefed out in their design to be able to take on basically the weight and the impact of you coming in on the landing. And again, that'll be something where not just as you want to feel comfortable as you're flying in the skies on these aircraft, when you come down and you touch down for landing, just like you do on, traditional 737 or something, you're always going to want the most smoothest landing possible. So to be able to design those sort of qualities into their aircraft already and to be able to prove out that tech. And now we're getting that explanation for any of those kind of curious questions of the whys. And again, put it, as eloquently as can be put, where the CTOL, not just for the battery burn, but again, if you're flying to one point of your destination where it literally has a runway in which you can land, if that's going to be better for your aircraft's performance, maybe that's going to be a longer lifespan on the aircraft. Again, if you're able to, not be recharging batteries off and on, so it'll be interesting to see also if the longevity on the aircraft, and actually once we get to start getting these aircraft out to market, I think that'll be interesting to see kind of what the lifespan on the aircraft, and then also as they go through kind of the 2030s, the further developments and any changes to the aircraft that they make at that point. But no, I think that this has been a beautifully laid out shareholder letter, hitting on everything that was expecting and targeting the first passenger flights in 2026. Again, to keep in mind, they're forward-looking statements, but this is what Archer is targeting, and again, it falls in line with the Q3 rollout that we were hoping to expect in UAE. That would basically be in lock with Joby going out there at the same time. So it looks like the UAE, again, are looking to be the early adopters of the VTOL technology. But again, there's a lot of nods into the eIPP and what the progress in the administration has been able to do and kind of get the vertical takeoff and landing aircrafts more furtherly adopted, as well as FAA approved on US soil. So again, I think these next 6 months are going to be about refining the aircraft, but also kind of that race of which soil is going to be able to display these first and kind of have that showcase of technology with inside of their airspace. So um, yeah, there is nothing shaking me or scaring me. So again, as of yesterday, we're getting a clips of VTOL flights, and today getting a very clear shareholder letter from the CEO, which again we get to read this in the way that our brains hear it. And coming up very shortly, we'll have the pleasure of getting Adam to really kind of speak that with his head and his heart, and being able to hear, kind of his tone and what he feels about the different areas, commercialization, defense, more build out in the UK, partnering with other allied partners, and maybe crossing over into the Asia region, and really just the global expansion and build out of Archer as they basically cement their footprint inside of the U.S. soil. Again, prepping for what what Adam has called a bookend showcase of 2028 and the Olympics. So, being that we are getting 704AX to VTOL, and production still seems to be in line. Production facility is online. I'm not seeing anything right now that's going to be pushing us away from the 2028 guidance. And it's looking
No,
like there's also very exciting things that will be happening prior to that date as well.
I'm buzzed. I'm excited. It feels like it
Yeah.
nipped a lot of them rumors in the bud. I was so happy that he's came out and finally said what we've
Mm-hmm.
been saying for a long time. There was no problem with
Mm-hmm.
two blade. The reason they're going for the four blade. We said it's all to do with performance. And again, straight from
Mm-hmm.
his own words, it's all to do with performance. I genuinely think the problems in this industry are facing all companies. It'd be very interesting to see, do we get a question directly from the analyst, what's your payload? And
I
it'd be
agree.
interesting to see how they navigate that. Are they going to dodge it? It will be interesting, because if they dodge it, then there is definitely a serious problem within this industry when it comes to payload capacity.
And
We need one of them to confirm that the battery technology at the moment will be suitable for air taxis.
And like you're saying, in that the battery tech again, Honeywell would be the battery supplier for Archer. So again, you're having a company that specializes in batteries and battery tech, who they're going off the shelf with. And not to stop your thought, Liam, but just to add in, I think just like you're saying with the Q&As, whether it's payload, there was a few questions that I had starred, like Austin from Canaccord had mentioned on the Joby call. Expecting to fly first conforming aircraft shortly. We note that there were 5 other different planes in construction, updates on assembly, that those are all in. So I started that because I'm kind of hoping a similar, if not the same question will be asked to Archer, because again, they've had the aircraft that were noted in final production down at the Covington, Georgia facility, and then would be moving back over to Salinas for continued flight testing over there. So that was just one of the 2 or 3 questions, like you're mentioning as well, that I had starred, that I am curious if those will be asked in the same kind of method or verbiage that was mentioned to Joby, and also how Archer will go about in handling their Q&A portion of this call as well. But no, I nailed it. No, I'm sorry. You nailed it, Liam. And I do think that bringing up a payload question would not be out of line from the analysts. If they're going to ask Joby about the payload, I think it's fair to ask Archer the same question, and just to kind of bring the investors' minds back to Archer progressed through Maker pretty quickly, in the sense of when they were building the aircraft to power on testing, and it was at that point in about 2022 to late 21 and going into 22 where they realized that Maker was just a subscale aircraft that was not going to be able to handle the payload that they felt that was going to be needed for their operations within inside of their company. So they went to about the 50-foot wingspan, up to about a 6,500-pound aircraft. So it's again, a lot of times when we talk about Archer redesigning their aircraft, I think that's something that they already did a few years ago. And now again, just like you say, Liam, it's great. And again, it takes the guesswork out of us sitting here saying, 2 props, have been validated inside the doors, 3 props, 4 props, and it's really a performance decision, not an issue, a decision that Team Archer, Tom, the CTO, and his design and his R&D team will take on. And yeah, it's yeah, all signs pointing in the right direction. There was barely a flash crash on the stock, and I just
No,
wanted
we're
to
starting to
notate.
recover now.
Yep. And I wanted to just notate really quick that if you compare the EPS to Q4 of 24, we were expected to come in at about the same range, minus 25 cents. And then actual EPS came in, I think it was at about 46 cents. I'm sorry, negative 46 cents. So on a year over year, let me get this for you really quick. On the year over year, on Archer EPS. Again, just showing what strength and what growth they've shown on basically their estimated price per share, and basically that has been a 100% increase. Again, we know that these are right now to the books considered pre-revenue companies and more instead of price to earnings, going price to book. But to me, it's fantastic to see that a year from last, it's been a 100% jump in the EPS markers.
Skyfall says, what do you think about the fact that Elon Musk is partnering with Archer and his history of purchasing companies at a premium that he works with? I don't think Elon will go down this route. If he goes down this route, it'll be with Tesla themselves. I don't think he'll acquire Archer. I really don't think he will.
And I know it sounds great.
About Elon.
Go for it.
I think it's the Starlink he's speaking about.
And and I know that this may sound crazy because if somebody was offered $3, $4, $5 billion to basically give up their business, whatever that, anybody put themselves in the shoes of Adam, and you start your business with X money. And also remember with Archer, as they came out to the NYSE and they were listed in 2021. That was during the time when a lot of the companies were coming out, and it was this whole SPAC conversation where this was not the best way to basically IPO yourself into the market. And again, we got to learn about a year ago that although Archer did come onto the market through a SPAC, basically Adam was calling in his last favors, and somebody that, as I know, currently don't think has any shares now, but Mark Lowry, who I believe is the owner of the Minnesota Timberwolves, so NBA basketball team, as well as I think has some other very high dollar ownerships as well, where basically my point is he basically backstopped this whole IPO. So Adam knew that he was going to need to bring over the top talent, and to bring over the top talent, you were going to have probably about $1 billion to get this really this company off the ground and start rolling. So really to get Tom over, Adam was able to show the confidence that his investor backing was having. And again, that basically this thing was backstopped by Mark Lowry, and, financially was set up to have the best chance not to fail in their initial few years of rollout being pre-revenue.
Then Archer Defense Daily, big shout out, my guy. Is this now? Yes, this be happening in about 15 minutes, my guy. Yeah, the call is at 5 p.m. Eastern time, I believe, is your time zone, is it? Like the hat name. Big thank you, my guy. You can thank Adam for that.
Do that.
Big shout out to him. There's a lot of messing about happening in the chat, so I'm not even gonna bring up some of them. Do you know what I've decided going forward? Any sort of negative shots between companies and messing about, I'm just not even gonna bring it up on screen anymore. I think this whole sector, Joby needs Archer, Archer needs Joby. Without each other, none of them are gonna succeed. You don't want to sting the whole sector.
And
Joby
I know,
had a great earnings call.
Yep, go for it.
I believe Archer is going to have great earnings call. As investors, we can be happy for both.
And even if you wanted to think that Joby did not have a good earnings call, I mean, again, the market can change overnight and every day. And if something's digested differently in a week or two, but I mean, if you look at the share price on Joby from when they had their earnings call, they have not been hit. You know, it's not like they've had a 20, 30, 40% drawdown. So yeah, I think it's always, it's always a good thing to kind of hive mind and, debate over, what any individual's kind of seeing or thinking, be it on one side of the aisle or the other. But again, I think the comparison of the companies it's going to get a little muddy in trying to compare Joby to Archer, and like you say, that Apple to Android and Android to Apple, where these companies really have had two different business strategies, especially in the past 1 to 2 years, which they've been looking to roll forward with in their particular markets. And just because Joby is being successful in one area, and let's say Archer has not done something, that's not to say that Archer will not maybe enter that, or maybe that's just not, again, in the 1, 2, or 3 things that Archer feels like they need to tackle in their certain flight cadence or business program at the moment. And inversely, same thing with Joby, where, if and maybe, maybe I was saying this to Liam pre-stream, but maybe this was at the beginning, but I'll just repeat it. If Joby was to partner with Palantir tomorrow, we got that news, it would be easy on the Archer side to say, oh, we were there first, we had Palantir first. But what I would really like to look at that as is that Palantir, the ATC, has more broadly adopted another company in which they want to get the flight data and the test data and everything they would need to operate that low altitude ATC system. So yeah, I think, let's definitely keep it respectable, but I agree with respectable, healthy debates. And it's okay, I think, to challenge the mind of the other, or if you're investors in an investor in both, or one or the other, to really outsource and figure out why that person is so bullish on the company that they're invested in. But again, not to be too repetitive, but I think we're looking at two different companies operating in the same sector. And just as we can't really compare Archer to New Horizon, or compare Joby to EHang, for they're just different models, different founders, different CEOs, and different business plans. But again, just like you said, Liam, you said it perfectly. Archer at this point is not going to be succeeding without Joby, and I don't think Joby is going to be succeeding without Archer. So doesn't mean you have to go out and buy shares in the other company just because, but I would definitely, stay on the side of
I
success for
genuinely don't
one.
think Archer and Joby are going to come in contact with for the next,
Yeah,
I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years, because the two of them aren't going to be able to manufacture enough to even get involved with each other.
that's a great
Dylan,
point.
I want to do one thing. Can you hear
Of
this
course.
when I turn it up?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Good check. Good
Um,
check.
and says, Liam, are you still predicting a green day after the earnings call? Did you think it loaded up during open markets day, and will it be a sell the news event? No, I think, look, we could start red, but I think by the end of the day it'd be green. That's my opinion. That's not, I'm not a financial advisor, so don't be going in the morning and overloading yourself if you're happy with your position at the moment. If you're not happy with your position, I think it'd be a great opportunity in the morning. But look, we could end up green in the morning and go red, but I would be expecting to open up red, go green. But then we did have a nice run today in the VTOL sector.
It's so
Sector will be
many.
down tomorrow. I actually think if
Right.
sector goes down tomorrow, I think Archer go flat. I don't think we'll be going that red. I really don't. I think this is quite positive.
Well, and two, like you say, Liam, maybe this is a call where, again, we're focused on the aircraft as opposed to other elements of the business, and kind of the shock and awe, where, again, for everybody last quarter, nobody knew that Archer was buying Hawthorne, and all of a sudden, they basically announced Hawthorne right about as the bell closes, and we get through the prepared remarks. And I think for myself, I'll speak for me, I was looking to hear a little bit more Q&A on what updates were going on with 704AX at the time. the ATC system, and then just again where they, were what kind of wasn't as clear as Adam was in this shareholder letter on just kind of why they did CTOL to VTOL operations and kind of explaining that out. But I think this is one where again we're focused on the aircraft and we're focused on operations, and again breaking that down to the segments of commercial, defense, and then also looking at mass scale ramp manufacturing of build, and yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they feel like they're more on the S curve. But I would like to hear from Archer if we can get any concrete numbers, because at least from Joby's side, and again, this is not, I don't mean this in a negative comparison, but just in the general guidance, because again, if we are mapping these out for aircraft that will be available for certain airspaces or commercial networks, give or take a year from now, it will be interesting to see if Archer does give any guidance, one, where the aircraft are in the final production stages, and then now having 704 and being able to basically prove out that tech, and we're going for that as the conforming aircraft, what is their S curve, or do they feel like there is, just general, what do they feel like their production ramp is, be it either ending 26 or getting a full map for the calendar year of 2027, calendar year 27 going forward.
Okay, so we've already had more people through this stream, and the earnings call hasn't even started than we had in the whole Joby's earning. So I want to give a big thank you to absolutely everyone. When I started this 2 years ago, 2 years ago, yeah. It started off and it was like myself, Reese, and I think Dylan was tuning in. There was like, it was
here.
very small. So I can't believe the way this is going. I want to thank a lot of you guys. I can't believe how big this industry is getting. Neo says, I can't thank you both enough for doing the earnings with us live. I've learned so much about eVTOL watching you guys. Thanks everyone. Smash that like button. Guys,
thank you
so much.
And honestly, it's something, it's a pleasure, and being able to do this, I know it's a tough thing where if you aren't in that day trader lane or swing trader lane where all basically your capital that you're making is off the market, so you're basically in front of the screen and doing charts or fib lines and EMAs and SMAs bouncing off, where I feel like a lot of investors on the retail side, they do have their personal lives which are very important to them, and time is very important. Little cheap plug for Archer, and that's what they're trying to do, and give people their time back, creating that experience where again you're able to land somewhere and you're not sitting in 2 hours of traffic. So without being able to design a time machine, being able to kind of give your time back. But no, I think it's something where you have so many updates that come in this industry. So no, just big thank you for that comment, because it's such a pleasure to get on here and be able to voice what's going on in the industry. And it's such a pleasure to see everybody in here, and keep firing away the comments, because I love hearing what everybody in the chat's talking about. So anyway, just huge thank you to you guys. It's great to see everybody here for the pre-party, and once we're done with the earnings call, hopefully everybody wants to stay around, and we'll get going some some post-earnings party call news going too.
Skyfall says, how do you think the war affects Archer? Well, it'll affect the ability to have passengers on board this year if this continues. I think the passengers on board is going to, they're referring to the UAE. But look, this is what this sector is going to be like. Any sort of conflict is going to affect any aerospace play, whether if you look at the revenue of any of your major airliners, it's going to be affected by this current conflict. So at the same time, we can't get too worried about it. Look, I don't think both Archer and Joby are banking that if this does not occur this year, that is it for either company. Both Archer and Joby have enough of a cash runway. They have enough of a market cap that they can dilute if required to surpass this war. So I wouldn't worry too much about it. This sounds so bad, but
you go for it.
When you're trying to think of it like that, these things come and go. They really come and go. And I know you're talking about something very, very touchy there, and it's not nice to say, but these events do pass. So I wouldn't worry too much when it comes to either Archer or Joby when it comes to do war.
And delicately said as well, if it's a prolonged war that, heads out 6 months and it is stopping, the commercial entry into Dubai, two things on that, again, just, want healthy, happy, and safe, but um I think we'll get through the company's guidance. Are they still ready for that? So again, it's like with the government, my point is like with the government shutdown, we were kind of curious, was that going to stop FAA from being able to be kind of integrated into the floor of Joby with the DARs and the DERs? And it seems like they were able to kind of push past that. So, as the macro events in the world continue to happen, are these companies still able to leverage their cash and do what they need to do on the ground in the next 3 and 6 months to prepare themselves for the planned commercial operations? And if they were stopped because of a reason out of their control, it would be interesting to still see, are the aircraft up to standard to be able to have done those commercial operations? So, would it be a pushback because of the aircraft versus a bigger macro condition that's going on? So, keep an eye on the aircraft, and we'll see how they develop in the next months too.
Then none of you says you guys rock.
No,
Big thank you so much, my guy.
no,
Goat Games, big
you rock.
shout out. Goat Games
Yeah,
going doing a podcast with us tomorrow.
there
I'm
you
so
go.
excited. The Archer Aviation podcast will be dropping. Will we drop it tomorrow? Yeah, we could drop it tomorrow evening.
It's on the calendar.
So guys, if you want to, while you're at work, etc., you want to hear a podcast where it's not going to be us speaking to the comments directly like a live stream experience. It's going to be a longer format than some of my videos, but it's going to be myself, Dylan, and Goat Games speaking. We're then going to roll out a Joby Aviation podcast where I think myself and Dylan will take the, what are we going to call it? The wheel
Sure.
of that Joby Aviation podcast. Then we'll see how they go and potentially push out into beta technologies, vertical aerospace. Except, well, we'll see what happens with vertical
It's
aerospace.
exciting. It's exciting. No, really happy to get with you tomorrow, Go. And for anybody, and again, whether it's Archer, Joby, or just general eVTOL investor, I would say, for me, whether each side I fall on, I'm always curious what the other company is doing, and that can even fold into like a company like Eve, could fold into Horizon Aircraft. So again, as this is an Archer earnings call, we're probably going to be talking most on Archer, but I do like to keep my ears open to everything that's going on in the industry and seeing where the progression of the aircraft are going. And also, again, I think again I've spoke on this a lot, but where these companies are showing us certain roadmaps that they're able to get through. So as Joby goes through a type when they're talking about getting the FAA pilots on board, I'm very curious to see how long basically that test regime goes with the FAA pilots on board. So if Joby's able to accomplish that first, let's see how long it takes for those pilots to kind of deem and get the test information that they need to go ahead and take on back to the FAA for final certification on the aircraft. And then if that's something that is either started, if Archer starts that while Joby's doing that, we can kind of look at like a general timeline finish that Joby was able to get there, and then kind of map that out for what Archer may be a predictable timeline. We'll see. Nothing in stone because, FAA, you always kind of got to get through them. And there could always be a change on either company's side that the FAA would just suggest. But very interesting roadmaps that both of these companies put out for us in the eVTOL space. But I like it.
Archer's being beaten up now. It's done over
Let's see.
5%. So it's not looking happy. But again, I still expect so tomorrow. I'm going to stick by that. I'm expecting a reversal. I think we're going to end up greener, if not flat. I don't think we'll be heavily down. Now that depends. If something happens in the macro environment, please don't come at me and say the incident will be great. Then jumping across. That says if you ever want to do a podcast outside of one picker at a time, I'd be game to talk anything from atmosphere to orbit. That's what we're doing. We need to get Fast CNC on a dedicated podcast.
Appreciate
I
that.
enjoy listening to Fast CNC. So, yeah, Chris, if you're up for that, let's get into talks. What will add them into that group with Gold Gains?
Yeah.
And we'll get something there. So, Vas, welcome aboard again. Then going across.
Let's see what we got.
Oh, this is proof of concept. So crazy. Okay. Met an aerospace engineer at physical therapy. He worked on helicopters, knew nothing about eVTOLs. And this is what I mean. 95% of people will not know anything about eVTOLs. So this EP is going to be great because this guy works in the sector and he knows nothing about the electric vertical takeoff and landing industry. And I don't expect him to. Like if he's not investing in it, he has no need to be focused on it. But this is what we've been saying over the past while. When these first come out to market, just like Adam said, when he first seen a Waymo, it was like, what is that? Yeah. Where now it's full self-driving. What? It's no
what is deal. That? Yeah, what is that? Yeah, no big deal. Yeah.
Dominic says, has video of midnight transition being posted online. Curious. So the transition isn't going to be taking place for a couple of months, did they say now?
I would say so. Yeah. Yep. Getting through initial flight tests, and I'm going to go back to the shareholder. But no, you are correct, Liam. That is correct.
Look, we're still in Q1. Just because we're going through the Q4 earnings doesn't mean Q1 is over. So I wouldn't be panicking about that transition video. I was expecting a video of a vertical takeoff and landing. Could happen this week, but look, it has been a great earnings so far. So I'm pretty chuffed, not gonna lie.
Actual results to differ materially from those contemplated by these statements.
Enjoy the call.
For more information about potential risks and uncertainties, review the risk factors in our SEC filings.
So
Today,
far, so good.
We will also be discussing both GAAP and non-GAAP financial measures. A reconciliation of those measures is included in our shareholder letter and earnings release from today. Now, I'll turn it over to Adam. Adam?
Thanks, Kate. At Archer, we are building a next-generation aerospace company with civil and defense applications. We have formed an ecosystem with some of the best partners in the world, from Anduril to SpaceX to NVIDIA. We have great momentum, and I'm excited to walk you through it today. I published a more detailed shareholder letter that I encourage everyone to read. I'm going to keep my remarks relatively brief and dedicate most of this call to Q&A from analysts and retail investors. Last year, our pilots took Midnight through its CTOL campaign. Flights over 50 miles, over 30 minutes of flight time at altitudes above 10,000 feet, and speeds exceeding 150 miles per hour. And we have now begun Midnight's piloted VTOL flight test campaign. We will continue to expand our piloted Midnight fleet and the flight envelope throughout 2026, enabling us to begin TIA activities with the FAA as soon as this year. As we expand our flight test program, we are simultaneously preparing to be ready for air taxi operations. We are on track to begin deploying Midnight this year, both in American cities as part of the White House's eVTOL Integration Pilot Program, or eIPP, and in the UAE as part of our commercial launch program. Before we go into our plans for the UAE this year, I want to acknowledge the current geopolitical situation in the Middle East. Our team and partners in the region are in our thoughts, and their safety will always be our top priority. We will continue to monitor the situation closely. Despite that current uncertainty, we remain focused on rapidly progressing our commercialization strategy in the UAE. I am pleased to share that Archer is the first eVTOL manufacturer to establish a restricted type certificate program with the GCAA, which sets us up to deliver additional Midnight aircraft to the country this year for piloted and passenger carrying operations, while simultaneously building out our network of certified vertiports across Abu Dhabi. While our team is hard at work commercializing the United States and the UAE, our global backlog continues to grow. Our order book is in the billions, with 7 of the world's largest airlines choosing to partner with us. Some new partners include Saudi Arabia's PIF and the Serbian government. The commercial momentum is real, and it is built on a certification strategy that we've been executing against for 7 years. This quarter, the FAA confirmed its final acceptance of 100% of Midnight's means of compliance. I believe this makes us the first eVTOL company to achieve this level of progress with the FAA. Completing Midnight's means of compliance unlocks the ability to finish the next phase, finalizing its remaining certification plans. We expect those to get there in the coming quarters, clearing the path for TIA work to begin on the program as soon as this year. Our partnership with Anduril is central to our defense strategy. We are designing an autonomous, hybrid electric VTOL aircraft built for dual use, a loyal wingman for defense, and cargo or medevac for commercial customers. We remain optimistic about winning a major defense contract this year. We are always looking for opportunities to apply the proprietary technologies we have developed for our commercial aircraft to other adjacent applications. In November, we announced our first third-party powertrain deal with Anduril and Edge Group to power their Omen autonomous air vehicle. Anduril spent 5 years searching for a propulsion solution for Omen, and I'm proud they chose ours. Beyond commercial aircraft and defense, we see a third opportunity: software. We partnered with Palantir for next-generation air traffic control, movement control, and route planning. We are working with NVIDIA to integrate their IGX Thor platform into Midnight for safety-critical autonomy applications, and we are working with SpaceX's Starlink to bring high-speed, low-latency connectivity to our aircraft. We plan to unveil our first software product in this category later this year. Executing across all of these fronts requires exceptional leadership. I want to highlight Benjamin Lyon, who has integrated fully into his role at Archer as President of Aircraft OEM. Benjamin is a longtime pilot who spent decades at Apple shaping some of the most complex hardware programs they ever built, then served as CTO at Aptiv, one of the world's leading industrial technology companies. He is exactly the kind of operator you want driving a program towards commercialization, and his impact on our engineering, manufacturing, and certification velocity is tangible. Tom Muniz continues to support the Midnight program, but has now taken a leadership role in developing our hybrid aircraft. Together, Benjamin and Tom represent exactly the caliber of leadership the opportunity requires. We ended Q4 with approximately $2 billion in liquidity. While this is a strong position, I try to be ruthless about cutting anything that does not earn its place. My job is to drive execution, fly aircraft, deploy them in cities, complete certification, scale manufacturing, and deliver to the customers who are waiting. Thank you to our team, our partners, the government agencies, and our shareholders that all play a part in our success. Deep tech is extremely challenging, and you give us the ability to pursue it. I do not take your support for granted, and we will work every day to continue to earn it. With that, I'll hand it over to Priya.
Thanks, Adam. On today's call, I'm not going to walk through all the detailed financial results as those are set out in our earnings release. Instead, I'll briefly discuss the key highlights: our liquidity position, capital allocation priorities, and overall financial discipline. First, with respect to liquidity, as Adam highlighted, we closed the quarter with a very strong balance sheet and total liquidity of approximately $2 billion, which is the highest watermark in Archer's history. Our financial strength allows us to think and act beyond a single program. With respect to our priorities for deploying capital, it is very straightforward. In the near term, commercializing Midnight remains our number one priority. This includes progressing certification activities, scaling manufacturing, and advancing market launch efforts. Beyond the Midnight platform, as we position Archer as a category leader, our next investment priority is in adjacent opportunities, such as the hybrid aircraft program and our software platform. These efforts meaningfully expand our long-term optionality and total addressable market. Our focused capital allocation carries through to day-to-day execution, with Q4 spending tightly aligned to the guidance we outlined in the last earnings call. We are moving steadily towards industrialization and market entry. That naturally requires increased but disciplined spend. For Q1, we estimate our adjusted EBITDA loss to be in the range of $160 to $180 million. This step up in investment is deliberate and is a direct reflection of the meaningful progress we are planning for the year. We will continue to provide transparency on spend trajectory and liquidity as we continue to execute against our key priorities. And with that, I will turn it back over to Adam.
Thanks, Priya. I want to first start by addressing some of the retail questions. And the first question is, how's the pathway for Archer to be the main air taxi service for the Summer 2028 Olympics? Well, the Summer 2028 Olympics is the most important commercialization milestone for Archer because it represents an unslippable date for us, and it's driving the regulators, and it's really driving us towards making decisions and ultimately making progress. But it's not just certification that has to be ready for the launch. It really is all about the infrastructure, the supply chain, the technical progress, all just converging at the same time. And just last quarter, you saw us invest in the Hawthorne Airport, and our team is on the ground every day there, working through initial flight operations, pilot training. And so this is a very important event for the administration. And so we are coordinating at the highest levels to make sure that this goes off smoothly. And with that, I'll turn it back to the operator to open up for questions.
Thank you. We will now begin the question and answer session. If you would like to ask a question, please press star followed by 1 on your telephone keypad. If for any reason at all you would like to remove that question, please press star followed by 2. Again, to ask a question, please press star 1. The first question comes from Edison Yu with Deutsche Bank. You may proceed.
Hi, thank you for taking our questions. I want to start off on eIPP. Can you give us a sense of what the next milestones are and the sequencing of events that need to happen before you start to fly the aircraft?
Sure, thanks, Edison. So just to take a quick step back on the eIPP program, we view this really as a big moment for the industry. I like to call it our Waymo moment. You think about like the first time you saw a Waymo, it felt like science fiction to you, but now the goal is to have, 500,000 people, in cities, in the biggest cities in the country, start to see these aircrafts as part of your everyday commute, just like they started to see Waymos every day. And that's what I think the eIPP has the power to do for air taxis. So seeing new aircraft flying over major cities will be exciting at first, but we do need to get people comfortable with them and ultimately accept them as an everyday outcome. And that is how we're going to drive consumer acceptance across the industry and in turn, regulatory approval. And so all that is on track, and Archer is on track to participate in that event. For the eIPP, we've had a lot of inbound interest from the municipalities, and then ultimately we've submitted the applications, and there's roughly a dozen or so municipalities that we partner with, including Southern California, Texas, and Florida. And now we are looking forward to the DOT announcing the finalists later this month. And then once the finalists are announced, we'll begin working directly with the selected localities to establish the initial operational plans. And then we'll focus on public flights as soon as the second half of the year. So it's really back to the DOT's hands at this point. We're waiting for them on next steps.
Understood. And then in terms of the piloted vertical full transition, I think in the letter you mentioned kind of the next few months are the test campaign will run. I guess what is the broader plan for the number of aircraft, for the levels of flying that you will do for the rest of the year?
Yeah, hey Edison, this is Tom. Well, just maybe to take a step back, as you mentioned earlier, we're now in the piloted VTOL and transition part of our flight test. And that's all kind of in support of and on track for the eIPP work that Adam mentioned earlier on the call. And just to kind of remind everybody, this comes on the back of all the VTOL flying we've done on Midnight without a pilot on board over the last several years, and the extensive CTOL campaign that we did last year. So we believe we're in a strong position with the testing that we've done. We also are really glad we invested time in that detailed CTOL campaign, as having the ability to do both those conventional takeoff and landings and vertical takeoffs and landings, we think is a huge advantage for the product and a big differentiator, obviously for the business case, safety case, things we've talked about. So our goal is, with this aircraft and the others that are coming online, to efficiently get through the transition testing in support of the IPP, but then we'll get right into TIA activity, all of this with the goal of being certified for the Olympics.
Understood. And if I just sneak one in on the, I think you mentioned you're the first one to get the 100% on the MOC. Can you just maybe walk us through the maybe the last couple of kind of percentage points? It seems like the industry in general has struggled a little bit to get through those last pieces. What do you think held that up, and why were you able to get through that?
Yeah, so it's a good question. So I would say it's definitely fair to say the last few percent were the hardest to close. But I think the fact that we've, from the very beginning, taken really best practice approaches or conventional approaches to topics like lightning strike, gust loads, occupant production, those sort of things, that are all enabled by us having a larger, heavier aircraft, meant we were able to get through those topics with the FAA. And we did that instead of by sort of pushing back. We were able to just accept sort of the best practice approach. So I think that's what enabled us to get through it.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question comes from Savi Syth with Raymond James. You may proceed.
Hey, good afternoon. Can I ask, I'm sure it really depends on, all the activity that you plan on doing this year, but just curious at a high level, maybe, where that EBITDA can step up as you go through the year, and maybe any kind of commentary on CapEx expectations for 2026.
Hey, Savi, thanks for the question. It's Priya. So, you know that we don't give annual or multi-year guidance, but I'll walk you through the flavors of where spending is going towards. So at the core of which, we're investing in 3 focused areas. The first is you can expect the supply chain readiness and manufacturing capacity, and that's to ensure that we can aggressively ramp up Midnight production and deploy it. Second, as we've talked about, in development of our dual-use hybrid aircraft, as we believe the opportunity is now to win contracts from the U.S. and its allies as they pursue this new vertical lift form factor. And third, of course, is our development of AI autonomy software platform. So while all these 3 result in spending being elevated in 2025, we think there are a lot of near-term opportunities to win awards on the defense side that could offset some of the spending or early revenues on the software side and the air taxi side as part of our launch edition program. So, the goal really long-term here is to have a diversified set of opportunities that can allow us to get to meaningful long-term sustainable revenue. And as in how we progress through the quarters, we'll keep providing our quarterly guidance, but hopefully that gives you, again, a framework to think about where are we deploying capital.
That's helpful, Priya. Thank you. And then just on the GCA side, could you explain a little bit more about what the key features are of a restricted flight approach, like what is and isn't included in that versus kind of a full certification?
Sure. Hey, Savi, this is Adam. So our progress in the UAE is obviously continuing, and given the kind of current geopolitical situation, we're just mindful of it, and how fast to push and how to support our partners best over there. And obviously, safety for our people is going to be important, and safety for our partners over there is going to be really important. But with that as a backdrop, we aligned with the GCAA on a pathway for commercialization, and we chose the restricted type certificate really because it was more of a recognized alternative than some of the other choices, such as like a type qualification. And it just really gives you broader operational flexibility and a scalable foundation to bring, Midnight to market in the Middle East. But we really have to kind of wait and see how all that plays out here. And I think there's more details to come on that.
Appreciate that. I'll turn it back.
Thank you. The next question comes from Andre Shepard with Cantor Fitzgerald. You may proceed.
Hey, everyone. Congratulations on the quarter and all the great progress. Adam, I wanted to maybe circle back to eIPP for a minute. Obviously with the projects now in the application stage, I'm just curious, like, how are you thinking about those projects? Like, what would you call a success? And particularly the California project, is that maybe where most of the attention is focused on, or just kind of how are you thinking about winning those projects, and what would you characterize as a successful eIPP entry? Thank you.
Thanks, Andres. I think the eIPP kind of win will largely be an industry win, where we have lots of aircraft flying around in multiple cities and getting the general public comfortable with what we're doing. So I think that's really the number one takeaway that can come from this. There are, a lot of very interesting cities and states that have applied. And so, I'm hopeful, California and Texas and Florida, ultimately get picked. But of course, we have to wait and see what happens. Any one city or location is not going to necessarily determine a success or failure, of this. So we have lots of options here that can get picked. Of course, we are hopeful that the Huntington Beach location does get picked, given our plan to ramp operations, ahead of the Olympics. But there are lots of great opportunities across many other cities that we think will also be, great opportunities as well. So I would say showcasing the aircraft, showing what they can do, having multiple operators doing this, getting the general public comfortable with this, and ultimately getting everybody comfortable with this industry just as they have gotten comfortable with Waymos in their cities.
Got it. Thanks, Adam. That's super helpful. I appreciate all that detail. And maybe just as a quick follow-up, I wanted to touch on, so I see that you recently conducted a piloted VTOL flight on the new aircraft. And apologies if I missed this earlier, but can you maybe just walk us through your flight plans for this year and kind of how you expect to ramp up those flight hours throughout this year and again ahead of eIPP and UAE? Thank you.
Yeah. Hey, Andres, it's Tom. So yeah, we're super excited that we're now in that piloted VTOL phase. So what you can expect to see over the coming weeks and months is just additional flying and working out towards full piloted transition. Obviously, after that, then we get into TIA and onward certification, but also in support of the Olympics.
And maybe this is a good chance for Benjamin to comment here. There were a lot of lessons that we've learned in flight tests, and I think it'd be good for Benjamin to comment on some of those.
Thanks, Adam. One of the learnings we got from the CTOL campaign was that it was actually the software update cycle that paced our progress. And that's because for our first piloted campaign, we wanted to stick with a well-understood path. So we used traditional aerospace methods. And we learned along the way that about half the time taken was due to manual steps that could actually be easily automated using best software practices from Silicon Valley. So as part of preparing for the VTOL campaign, we actually made updates to our software infrastructure. Like one such example is we now automatically deploy software updates to the Midnight aircraft. And as you can imagine, the team is very proud at having reduced multi-month-long cycles into often just a few days while maintaining the highest standards of safety.
Thanks, Benjamin.
Thanks, guys. Super helpful. I appreciate all that. And congrats again on the recent success. I'll pass it on.
Thank you. The next question comes from Amit Dayal with H.C. Wright. You may proceed.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. So, Adam, just can you provide any color on how many aircraft will you have available for the certification and testing, and then for the eIPP program?
I'm sure. I'll give you a flavor of that, Amit. Thanks for the question. So we're in the late stages of building that initial fleet of Midnight aircraft that we've talked about, and we're going to deploy those in 26 and 27 for our flight testing, our TIA activities, and then also as part of our eIPP and the international launch program. And so the focus of those aircraft is really to get us through the piloted VTOL transition testing, and then ultimately to demonstrate air taxi ops under the eIPP and launch programs. And then, of course, we need to use that to get into TIA and then ultimately type certification. But in parallel, we're also really stepping up our manufacturing and supply chain capacity to put it in a position to allow us to aggressively ramp the aircraft builds as we get into 27 and 28, as we ready for the commercial ops in Los Angeles for the Olympics and beyond.
Understood. That's where I was going next, Adam. So from a manufacturing perspective, what else needs to be sort of put in place for you guys to be, ready to sort of meet the timelines you just talked about? And any color on how much CapEx is going towards that effort?
Yeah, it's a good question. And so, as we go through the certification process, we are, really focused on making sure we have, the right aircraft that's designed for a great consumer experience, very, very safe, and that can carry, the appropriate amount of payload, but can also be mass manufactured. And I talked a little bit about that in the shareholder letter. It's very challenging balancing, the performance, the certification side of it, as well as manufacturing ramp. So the good news is, we've already stood up Georgia, the Covington plant. We've invested pretty heavily in CapEx, pretty heavily in a lot of the NRC and tooling. And so, while our spend has been elevated here, I think we are in pretty good position here to actually ramp once we get through the certification program.
Okay, understood. That's all I have for now. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Next question comes from Austin Mahler with Canaccord. You may proceed.
Hi, good afternoon, Adam and Priya. So just my first question here, is the 100% means of compliance completion on the FAA side, does that mean that you're essentially close to or through critical design review and we shouldn't expect any more aircraft changes? I know that you had changed the landing gear last year.
Yeah, hey, Austin, this is Tom. The reality is I can't say we won't make any further design changes until we get through all the cert testing. The reality is there's pros and cons there. It's actually an opportunity for us to make improvements, where we have time and bandwidth in the program. But that being said, we're really comfortable with the architecture of the aircraft, and we don't see any technology issues today. One thing I can also say is the approach to design for certification from the very beginning, like I mentioned, it's meant we have a larger and heavier aircraft than some of our competitors. It's really positioned us well. And so, Adam kind of touched on this earlier. The challenge here is making sure that the design has the right performance, the right cert path, and the manufacturing path to actually launch the product. And we're really comfortable with where those are coming together.
Okay. And if we just think about the Iran operation and the first use by the Pentagon of one-way attack drones, should we think about a midnight rotorcraft drone as potentially competing on future phases of the drone dominance program, or do you think it would be more in line with a collaborative combat aircraft type program specifically set aside for rotorcraft where they're looking for something attritable?
Yeah, I think the conflicts, have really reinforced what's always been true, Austin, which is that air dominance is just the decisive factor and it's key to military superiority. And so, what we're seeing now and what you're asking about is really the beginning of a generational shift in how nations are thinking about aerial warfare. And that shift, we think, will play out over a multi-decade period of time. But I think one thing is clear is that simply hybridizing an air taxi to get some additional range or payload, it may get you some short-term win, but it's divergent from what the administration really and what America's allies want and what they're demanding. And so that's why we partnered with Anduril to build an autonomous hybrid VTOL aircraft with dual use capabilities, both civil and defense applications. But on the military side, we think the demand is going to be for a loyal wingman, and that's for armed reconnaissance attack helicopters. And so due to the sensitive nature of it, though, I can't share much more details at this point. But our hope is that we can show the aircraft this year, which will translate into some really key wins. And, to really help accelerate our progress there, we opened up a new hub in Bristol, UK, where we've already hired 20 plus seasoned engineers.
That's very helpful color. Thanks, Adam.
Thanks.
Thank you. As a quick reminder, if you'd like to ask a question, please press star one on your telephone keypad. The next question comes from David Zazula with Barclays. You may proceed.
Hey, good afternoon, and thanks for taking my question. Just Adam, in your first question response, you said that the Olympic 2028 date was driving the regulators. Maybe if you could unpack that statement a little bit. What do you mean? Do you mean resource allocation? What was kind of behind that statement?
Sure. Back in 2022, the FAA was the one that put out the goal of being able to fly eVTOL aircraft in mass in one city at the LA 28 Olympic Games. They called it Innovate 2028. So it really was an FAA program kind of concept to begin with. Since then, you've seen this administration be heavily leaned into the Olympics, wanting to show all the great things America has done, the reindustrialization of America, America's leadership in aviation, and so it's become a big, I think, selling point for the Olympics in general. And so it really has been one, I think, an exciting thing for everybody to rally behind and people to be proud in America that we're leading in aviation, and also an important point for the administration to make sure that we get this done. But what it did was create an unslippable date. And so it's a date that everybody knows things have to be done by. And so, in this industry, it's tricky, right? We've had, some companies that have been around for a long time and they keep putting out dates, and us too. And the challenge is, how do you get anybody to sort of stick to these dates? The way to do that is to align everybody to some unslippable date. And I think the Olympics has done that. It's really just forced everybody to get moving to make sure that all these, challenging things that we have to get done are getting done. So hopefully that gives you a perspective, but I think a lot of it has to do with the culture and really the excitement that is around the games.
Helpful. And then you got us a little bit about deployment earlier, maybe specifically for what you have in production right now. Can you just give us the breakdown of what you expect to be kind of UAE based versus what US based on the testing plan for this year?
Sure. I think it's a little bit difficult for us to predict too much stuff in the UAE right now, just sort of given the the ongoing conflict. Our goal is to keep getting through some of the testing and the the certification progress over there, as well as the certification process testing and eIPP over in the US. So I think we'll have to wait and see kind of how that plays out to determine the volumes that we're going to put it in each of the different locations. So I would say let's wait and see how that turns out.
Thanks, Al.
Thanks.
Thank you. The next question comes from Chris Pierce with Needham. You may proceed.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Just one quick one on eIPP and then one on design. I guess, if we think about the application that you put out there, is CTOL involved, or should we only expect you guys to see VTOL flights? And is there a possibility we could see VTOL flights, up, down, even though we don't have full transition at that time, and that's enough to help sort of move the industry forward? I just kind of want to make sure to be on the right page of what we might be looking for later in this year.
Hey, Chris. We do expect to be through the full flight envelope at that point. And so I would expect us to certainly see VTOL full transition flights, but because the aircraft was designed to do both VTOL and CTOL, we have the capability to do both. I think that's what's unique about the aircraft. And so there's an opportunity to do both.
Okay. And then the letter talks about the benefits of four-bladed design. And I know you had a two-bladed design prior. Is it just that you didn't know what you didn't know? And I guess you talked about software before. Like, is there some sort of four-bladed design gives you increased confidence in transition flight, or is that the wrong way to think about it and those aren't that correlated?
I think it goes back to just the broader philosophy of trying to balance performance, certification, and manufacturability. And so that is what is, that's where all the work of the industry is going into right now. And I think it's very doable to build an aircraft that can fly really far or fly really high or fly really fast. But once you try to certify that, a lot of the case falls apart because the FAA is extremely rigorous in terms of the standards that they make you have. And so what we do is we look at different trades. And so all three are possible and can be done. You can use a two-bladed propeller, a three-bladed propeller, or a four-bladed propeller. You can even probably use a five-bladed propeller. They just all come with different trades. And so what we mentioned in the letter was the two-bladed propeller had more of a weight penalty on the trade, versus a four-bladed propeller had more of a drag penalty. So one gives you more range, one gives you more payload. We optimize around payload, which is why we chose the four-bladed propeller. And we just use that as an example to help show there are literally thousands of trades that go on like that throughout these programs. And so some could be design trades where they're industrial designs for like better looks, where it can look, but it might hit your performance. Some might be payload, some might be range, some might be speed. So those are just trying to give you a flavor for how we think about design here, but any of them are possible. We went with the four-bladed option because we thought it optimized for what we needed to make sure we could build a proper business case around.
Okay, thanks and good luck.
Thanks.
Thank you. There are currently no more questions at this time, so I'll pass it back over to the team for closing remarks.
Well, thank you very much for attending the call. We certainly have a lot of work ahead of us, but I could not be more excited about where we are headed. Every day, our team shows up with the same urgency that we had on day one, and that is not changing. I do not take your support for granted. We will keep earning it every day. Thank you very much.
Now, hopefully, you can hear me.
You're on.
You can hear me.
You're on for the post game.
I haven't been done for spam this time. Guys, there's over 500 of you. Do smash that like button, smash that subscribe button. Do you know what? I'm actually quite happy with that. There is only one thing that I was a little bit frustrated about. Well, no, quite a big bit frustrated about. He did dodge the amount of aircraft they will have.
Agree.
Look, I can't say one thing about Joe Ben, not say it about Adam. That was a direct dodge out of the question. We went round the whole fact of what the analysts asked directly. They said, how many aircraft do you have ready? So, other than that, yeah, we can expect TIA later this year, Middle East. They are monitoring the situation, but they're looking to rapidly progress. The first company for the restricted type, they believe that the vehicle is optimized, or the company is optimized, and that are optimistic at winning a major defense contract this year, which I am quite excited about. I think defense could be a big year this year in this whole industry, both with Archer Aviation and the whole Andrew project. I think with Joby and the L3 Harris project, I genuinely think we need to start really tapping into that whole defensive mindset. The transition, it seems a little bit vague. It seems like it's going to happen more like the end of the year. That I know they said in the shareholder letter that it's going to be happening in the next few months, but then in the call it sounds like he was referring to the second half of the year. So what is the next few months? I don't know. Is it 2-3 months or is it 5-6 months? Then eIPP, so he's excited about the eIPP, where it's not only that Archer Aviation, but the whole industry needs to come together. He doesn't care whether it's a Midnight flying, an S4 flying, a Beta Alia flying. He just genuinely wants the whole mass public to see these aircrafts in operations. Just like we had our friend earlier come on and say that a helicopter engineer had not heard of an eVTOL. This is what Adam's saying about Waymo. When you first seen Waymo going around, you thought, what is that? This is why he doesn't care whether it's a Midnight. He just wants any eVTOL going around. Pathway for 2028, it's not just about certification, it's all about infrastructure, supply chain. They were happy enough with Hawthorne and the initial flight operations they're coordinating with the highest level to get that done. Then look, I'm actually quite happy with how that went. Yes, we can say that Joby was down or was up 5% after hours and Archer is down 4.6%. But at the same time, I said it before the call, you cannot predict these things after hours. We're going to see how tomorrow ends at closing bell, and then we can get an assessment on how big money feels about this whole operation. I've seen some of you guys going in and saying it's a long runway for Archer to get to certification. It's a long runway for all of these companies. This is what I'm saying. This is not a short-term play. This is genuinely a long-term play, not even a mid-term. It's a long-term play. And certification is not the end goal. I think everyone believes that certification is the end goal for these companies. Certification is only the key that unlocks the door. Then we go into the manufacturing process, and then it's going to be a race for manufacturing. But look, we're talking about the size of the US. We're talking about the size worldwide. So why are we worried about these two companies that, look, Joby are going producing 48 next year. We are unaware of how much Archer are going producing next year, but say even they said 20. These are not going to come in contact with each other to be any type of competition to each other. The world's a big place, so I won't worry too much. Dylan, how are we feeling? Oh, you're muted, my guy.
There we are. Thank you. All right. Yeah. Sorry. Mic was green, but StreamYard was on mute. Apologize. Yeah. So back with it. Honestly, agree with you on a lot of that, Liam. I agreed that there was a few opportunities to really actually answer in on the aircraft numbers. And so again, on any earnings call for any of the eVTOL companies, we're always going to call out what we think that we're not hearing in there, either expected to hear or would be intended to hear on the call. One thing though, as you were talking on it, it's like, it reminds me a little bit of like Hawthorne when it came out. It's like, it's like trying to digest and understand. And then, we get a week or two out and it makes a little bit more sense. One of the reasons I'm actually curious on Archer and their ability to not say on their future forecast of aircraft. So again, if we're taking that Joby is further along and has done the power on testing, so they're further along basically in their flight test transition. So be it that they're 6 months ahead, maybe they're able to forecast out as they're getting to minus the payload, like kind of as Tom was alluding to, where there's always an opportunity to still refine the aircraft with inside of that final approval of the FAA. Maybe it just wouldn't be right to give specific guidance because, again, it's not going to be mass scaled out. The ramp isn't going to be happening until you have those check marks and you know that that's the aircraft that you're going to be taking to final assembly. So would I have liked to hear numbers given? Yeah, honestly, yes, that would be my honest feeling. But when we go back a quarter or two and we're talking about 650 aircraft in 2028 and such, if that's an unrealistic goal, like, let's not talk about that on the earnings calls and keep stamping that we're going to be doing 650 aircraft by a certain year if that's not an achievable goal. So what I think I'm going to be listening to in the next, I would say, the next second and third earning call. I think the next earning call for me is going to be very VTOL and transition focused, and seeing what progress has been able to be made in those lines, and looking at additional CapEx spend where if they are making good progress behind their doors on their VTOL and transition flight test campaign, maybe that gives them the extra confidence to build out further manufacturing structures and to bring in the tooling, which he did mention that it seemed like some of the CapEx had been used to bring in, and I'll get the specific language in just a second, but was bringing in, anyway, I'll get the exacts for you guys in a second. But yeah, we're basically, I wouldn't, I'm not expecting either of these companies really to be able to mass scale and ramp until we know what that final product. So maybe once we're getting to the point where we're getting closer to getting the FAA pilots on board for Archer, that can give us an idea of that timeline of the ramp to manufacturing. It was interesting, again, to hear them say, even in with the eIPP, cargo medical is not something out of the question. And I think that kind of goes in with Joby and what they spoke on the earnings call as well. So I think to be open-minded in what we're seeing in the use case, and maybe it's in the sense where, let's say it's a quote unquote cargo mission that is being flown during the eIPP. Maybe not worry so much about what's inside of the aircraft at that point in time. Maybe look at the fact that that is something to show, again, the ability to hold payload within this aircraft without it having to be physical passenger. And then when we're looking at, I think it's a tough question because, again, you're on a quarterly earnings call being asked about the entry into service into Dubai in Q3. So, for us, we can sit here and say that we might project it to be, a shorter war with a V-shaped recovery. But again, with Adam, who is behind the doors and in a lot more closed door meetings than I personally am in, he's going to have a little bit more detail into what he thinks the longevity or opportunity to enter in. So maybe it was a time where he didn't want to overpromise in the sense of entering into Q3. Because again, if you go back a week ago, these questions weren't able to be asked on the Joby Aviation earning call. So, it'd be interesting to see if Joby comes out with anything that would just speak to their entry into service. So, be it over the next 1-2 months and seeing how the conflict is kind of playing out or still going on, to be able to see if they're still in line for the entry into service into Q3. Now, honestly, to me, I felt like it was kind of all along the lines. It was a pretty calm call. My
God, like
Mm-hmm.
I see the chat going wild there, and who has been in the space and who hasn't been in the space a while, because there was some comments I was reading. I was like, my God, we've experienced on all fronts, Archer and Joby, some very hard calls. So genuinely, by both Archer's and Joby's calls, these were nothing. These were a walk in the park compared to what we're used to.
It did kind of feel that way. And, again, I didn't need them to, but, they were kind of stamping that their partnership with Andrew is, again, deeper than just putting a hybrid powertrain on their current aircraft, that there is really a deeper developing aircraft.
And Max is starting to actually piss me off, and I'm going to put him in timeout.
That's fair. That's fair. And when sorry, I was just gonna say when we're sorry, threw it off. Anyway, I'll talk about something else. But anyway, so the software, so when they were talking about getting to the 100% means of compliance, they're basically saying that it was the software that allowed them to get to that means of compliance and to make it to that 100%, and was saying that maybe something that other in the industries are having trouble with. So I'm interested, as again with the CCS charging, you're getting basically all your software is on the dash, and all of the information is being it's not being pulled through your charging network. So again, in some of the competitions who's gone with a different charging infrastructure and a different charging port, they're also pulling sensitive data off of their aircraft through that charging infrastructure and the Geeks network as well. So it's kind of interesting to see if software really is going to be one of those critical components for the FAA approval for these companies as they move forward. So, it is good to hear that. And I think the thing I was going to say was, it's like, it was nice that, they were able to kind of keep that call kind of short and sweet and ... all that kind of stuff. I'm not gonna lie, I really enjoyed the shareholder letter that Adam had put out. I think he would have done also a beautiful job reading that. So not to have to make him be redundant and read something that, as investors, we may have read going into the call. But I think it would have been really cool to hear him actually go over that and, really, again, just not saying he's going to go more in depth, but to read those as his prepared remarks and kind of be able to be proud of the certain accomplishments that have happened during CTOL and then getting to a VTOL test campaign now at this point in their company structure. And, you did hear again that it really seems like the more that these companies are leaning in on the defense side or being open to help out defense partnerships, it's only going to lead into more of an opportunity for the commercialization for these aircraft. I did see something, one thing on both, and I want to say that this came in the prepared remarks as well, where Adam had mentioned on the eIPP, the states that he mentioned was California, Texas, Georgia, and I apologize if I'm missing one more. But the point on that was that he did not mention New York either. And these are two cities that were left off in the prepared remarks. So I'm just curious kind of where New York will play into the eIPP, and then how these companies will integrate themselves. If New York, it seems like we're all thinking that that's a city that will be selected, but to kind of see again how Joby Archer or a tertiary company does come in and play into the eIPP in that market. And then off of that as well, yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's one of those where it's okay to have a calm call. I think we've had ones where, Adam is, if you go back a year ago, it's like he's almost ready to have the call end. It's like he's kind of, he's maybe thinking whether it's information he's getting from the manufacturing team, from the design team saying that, VTOL would be ready or a certain test campaign will be ready to open up. And then it's almost like he just wants to get through the questions and be done with them. For me, this seemed, again, very calm. It seemed like the analysts didn't have, again, outside of the specific aircraft numbers that, again, was kind of doubled down on, it didn't seem like there was company structural issue kind of questions that were going on through the Q&A. And again, I feel like Savi is really tapped into both of the industry leaders. So I feel like she's kind of at the forefront of really trying to ask the hard questions, as she did even to Hawthorne in the Q&A on the last quarter. And again, I think on the US soil, it's again doubling down that 2028 is the one to look for. So again, it's what can these companies do to prepare themselves for 2028. So I'm almost seeing 2026 as general, like FAA catalysts that, can come along the lines. Maybe with further FAA catalysts, we can start looking at maybe some MOUs starting to come as more forward cash payments. But maybe thinking in 2026 for these companies being that refined time and getting towards our Q3 call, where whether it's entry into service and or ramp of manufacturing, and to the CapEx that's being spent by both of these companies to expand out their manufacturing facilities and to tool those out, I think are going to be really important. So, and I think there was a comment that had said something about the eIPP being announced tomorrow, but they weren't speaking as specifically on like they said like something else could happen in a few weeks. I could be wrong, but I've thought along the ways that the initial eIPP announcement is going to be the cities announced first, and then we're going to get the aircraft providers, quote unquote, later in that. So I
wouldn't be too worried about Archer and Joby.
Not
being selected. They get selected.
I'm with you.
Who else are you going to select other than the two juggernauts when there's 5 U2 come through? Beta, I think, will be selected, and then you guys can guess the rest.
Basically.
Dark says, great call. Keep at it, Liam and Dylan.
LFG we will. What's up, Dax? Always good to see.
The way the sack is your end still $20 in. Yep, 100% still is. I genuinely think the movement a defense contract can have, and they said that. Look, I'm only talking about the space sector.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be quite familiar in. Defense contracts are massive. So you want to see the movement one of these bad boys can do. And when we talk about sizes, I don't know what the first contract that they're going for, but I don't think Andrew's going for no small contract.
Okay. And on that too, Liam, it's like as much it sucks as Andrew is not a IPO company, so we're not going to be getting quarterly earnings calls on Andrew, so we're not getting that peeled back and questions asked on like how's your hybrid VTOL campaign going and all that kind of
That's
stuff.
where we got a question earlier in the comments. Someone asked that Andrew aren't saying anything about Archer, and it's like, yeah, but they haven't IPO'd, so like they don't have these quarterly earnings calls where you can hear them talk about Archer.
But I think what they have spoke about is, again, what Adam alluded to, is it being more of the CCA operations for the rotorcraft. So again, you may not be looking again at the, as much of the piloted side-by-side flight for these aircraft being used by Andrew, more in the autonomous CCA ranges. So again, it's unfortunately one of those things. Unfortunate, and again, we'll just wear the hearts on the sleeve. It's one of those unfortunate things where Archer isn't going to be able to get the tranche of money from a program of record unless Andrew is the one who is selected for that. So again, it's always going to be a trickle down where, let's say Andrew gets a $10 billion program of record, and just throwing out random numbers. We're still going to have to narrow that down into what in that classifies for their VTOL aircraft. I'll call it campaign or kind of build out that Andrew is doing behind the scenes. And then we just back that up again to sale price of aircraft for Archer. But again, if we then kind of back that up a little bit more, they still need to be able to have the aircraft to deploy. And I think that's the big circular question. And maybe if you went back, okay, if you go back a year and a half ago, you were only needing aircraft to support commercial operations. And then you're like, I only need aircraft to support commercial operations in UAE because these are the first adopters and FAA is taking forever. And, we have aircraft that are ready to fly in some capacity and the UAE is ready to adopt them. So we're going to MOU and we're going to sell it. And, they already got vertiport build out structures going and that's where we're headed. To now where, we're splicing off into possible defense contracts. And then again, really having to figure out where these aircraft are going. And I don't know specifically the leaders at the CEO or the leaders at these companies know the slice of basically how to slice the pie up and to tell us what percentage of the aircraft are going where, because there's still going to be the FAA type conforming, basically like front of mind, like we need to have these aircraft for the FAA pilots to be in and continue to pass RTIA and get that type certification. So, as it's, and I've said this for a while, it's tough where you have a customer in the UAE that seems like they're ready to go and GCAA is on board and wanting to take technology. And then it wasn't as, it wasn't as far back as 3 to 6 months ago that we didn't have executive orders coming in and the budget that is getting proposed, and then the eIPP. And then again, the bipartisan bills. We didn't have any of this a year ago. So again, if you're the CEO of the company and you're looking to survive on a cash burn rate, again, your lean in is going to be to the UAE because that is who's looking to spend the money with you. So now all of a sudden, you got the US oil that just seems to be like opening up much quicker than 2028, when then maybe in the back of your mind, it's like, or back in the company's mind, it's like, okay, well, we're attacking UAE first. We'll get deliveries over there, continue to ramp build manufacturing, scale manufacturing, and then ramp that for a 2028 showcase, and then ramp that for commercial passengers beyond that. Because also keep in mind, as they enter into service, even in 2028, it's been described to us that it's going to be more of the VIP service. So again, it's not to say that, that they're going to be targeting the ability for every commercial passenger to fly around the Olympics and to be picked up from here to there on a what we're considering that typical air taxi route. So again, figuring out how they can showcase those aircraft in a more public manner through the eIPP, but really, again, commercial operations in the US starting more in that VIP scale, and then allowing that to transition from the 2028 to the 2030, where again, I think we're looking to adopt these more into the commercial air taxi network and then progress from there, whether it's autonomous flight or continued support in the piloted VTOL flights that are taking place from Archer and these companies.
Anne's pretty adamant that the FAA is expected to announce tomorrow the winners of the pilot projects when they inherently link specific cities with specific aircraft manufacturers. You cannot have one without the other because the eIPP is based on public-private partnerships. The city, the government entity must apply with the private sector partner, the aircraft maker. Look, Anne, I genuinely, if I have to give you an honest answer, I don't know. I was always under the understanding that the announcement was tomorrow. We can try and find out.
Well, and again, you know, it's saying it's a minimum of the 5 piloted projects. So I wouldn't expect, you know, let's and this, you know, and even if we go back to eVTOL weeklies and such like that, let's not expect tomorrow that this means that Joby and Archer are going to be putting an aircraft in the air under the eIPP program. This is like taking the gift wrapping off or whatever metaphor you want to use. It's like we get to start unwrapping the eIPP tomorrow, and we get to finally figure out. And again, yes, it's probably going to be Georgia, it's probably going to be Texas, it's probably be California, most likely Georgia. Georgia, California, Texas, California, Ohio, and New York. So actually, that's 6. So you got Georgia, Texas, California, Florida, New York, and Ohio. So that's 6 right there. Somebody's not going to make it. So if you cut Ohio, you're cutting Joby out of a predominant area that they want to fly in. So I don't see that necessarily coming off the board. California, that kind of stamps both of the largest eVTOL aircraft companies. So I would expect California. Texas is an interesting one to me, but I almost think of that where they were early adopters in the Waymo. So maybe the regulations and just kind of thought of regulations or adopting those are more palatable for that state. And also, you know, Texas, but like many states, but where Texas is going to have high populated areas and then also very vast land of open flying land to take place as well. So I could see in that sense, Texas possibly being included. You have Florida, where again DeSantis has talked about building the test track from Tampa to Orlando, and basically back and forth to have those basically pre-planned routes already going. So I could definitely see Florida, as you've been seeing a lot of the companies doing their expos down there. And so you have Georgia. So then it leaves me Georgia or New York. So Georgia, it would be great. I mean, that's where Covington's at. So, I mean, that would definitely play, I would say, harder lean in more to kind of Team Archer in so many words of who would be flying in that airspace. But again, if Georgia's selected, now I'm leaving New York off the list. So just in the sense of where we would want to maybe show mass adoption of these aircraft, I would just maybe lean that New York would be one that's going to showcase it to more people and have it broadly adopted. And you have the Blade services over there. So, you know, if when and able ready to kind of integrate those into the tourism routes or the point-to-point routes like Blade services has. But also remember that a lot of these FBOs like Signature Aviation and such like that, you know, the world doesn't only operate around Blade. So just kind of to keep in mind that, you know, just because Blade flies helicopters point to point, that doesn't mean that they're the only operator inside of New York and or a city that can do those point-to-point routes. But the aircrafts have to mature to the point that they are able to successfully do the missions in which we're looking to do those. And I think it would be, I'm going to choose my words. I think, you know, I don't know if it would be right to expect Archer to be performing piloted VTOL transitions under the eIPP in California by March 5th or March 7th, maybe by the end of the month, maybe, or maybe that's even still too soon. As again, as we layer these companies kind of on top of each other, again, Joby with the Power On testing has kind of got that process started. So maybe they're able to integrate initially to the eIPP in some areas, possibly quicker, because again, it's going to come down to the aircraft you have as well. So, if we're using 704AX more as that test bed for piloted transition, VTOL and transition flights, are we using 703AX as kind of that initial eIP rollout aircraft? And then again, where are we at in the stages of the final production for the other 6? And I think that that's something, once we can get that nailed down and figured out the final production, get the FAA pilots, getting those on board, I think that's when we can start looking at the numbers. But just to be full circle on it, I would have liked to hear some projected numbers out, be it for either 26 or 27. So I'll still say that I would like to hear those projected numbers.
Guys, how are you feeling about the earnings? Are you happy? Are you sad? How are you feeling about it? Do let me know. Scott Vest says Texas is pushing a pro-autonomous standpoint from the government, and says it's basically what Joby did, flying in Dunedin and back up Pacific coast. Jumping back, Grant Potter says minus 4.5% after hours, but who really cares? Long gamer.
Like it.
And the thing, if you're happy with your position, it genuinely, it doesn't matter. At this point, we said it prior to the call that crazy things happen after hours, and I'd never bank on where after hour goes. I would still be confident we'll be flat to green tomorrow. I actually think it will be green by the end of tomorrow, and I'm going to get everyone at me, but I don't really care. I do think it will be green tomorrow.
Well,
I thought we were going to be green today as well.
Well, and to that as well, it'll be interesting because even like with today, just in the little like, you pop open the Hood app and it's like, what a news article, was getting written earlier in the day and stuff like that. It'll be interesting come tomorrow, and I love that we're going to get this podcast going because again, when you get these articles written by Motley Fool and stuff like that, don't let them crush your thesis on what's going on. I think there's gonna be, if I'm doing a pretend crystal ball, non-financial advice, I'm seeing like 2 quarterly calls from now. Like, I think we need to be okay when we get on these calls, realizing that we didn't tank 20%. Joby didn't tank 20%. So there is still investor confidence in where these companies are at now. We can't expect that either of these companies are going to come on and say, oh, we've sold 5 aircraft. We just kind of forgot to update you guys a week ago when this happened. We're going to see those signs. And when that happens and those price to earnings start to show on the earnings calls, that's when the volatility moves, I think, are going to be more in your upswings of green. And then you're going to probably find new fib levels and then rolling into your next day where you're either having retail or institutional investors piling in because of, again, what happened on that specific earnings call with the aircraft that are going out. So again, as we deal with these next 3 to 6 months of not really pre-revenue, because I know Blade's bringing in, some revenue for Joby and that, but like real like aircraft sales or commercial ops revenue coming in, take into account with the speculative industry that, I don't think there's a ton of holes per se being poked in what's going on. I don't think either company is saying that they're not prepared for the eIPP and that rollout. I don't think anybody has really backed down off of that. So yeah, I would definitely see these two being participants in the eIPP. And in what form, I think we need to just be open-minded and again realize that if we go back a year ago, the eIPP wasn't a thing and eIPP wasn't a thing. And again, showcasing these flights. It's unwrapping the gift. It's like starting to take bites of the sandwich of what will eventually get us full, with companies executing behind that. But yeah, I think it's one of those things where you can hear a bad earnings call, go back through it, and you're like, oh, that wasn't that bad. You can hear a good earnings call, and then you can go back through it and be like, wait a second, like maybe I didn't like that too much. But I think again, this was one where both companies actually too on their basically capex and spend guidance. I don't think either company is right now comfortable in relaying what they feel like a full year spend is going to be, just basically on what money they're putting out. I think a lot's going to have to do in this next 3 months and deciding, again, not to be too redundant, but is it going to be FAA and US soil, or is it going to be commercial operations in UAE? And what as an investor base, what would maybe bother you more? Would it, if you were, let's say we were getting a more fast track with the FAA and we were able to do Q4 rollout on US soil, let's say that was stamped, but that meant we had to pause Q3 rollout in UAE to be able to have the aircraft held back, to be able to supply those to FAA. And then again, with that being stamped, provide those to the order books and everything that basically has been lined up for the sale of the aircraft once those are approved by the FAA. So I think it's definitely an interesting soil race that we're going through. And then also both of these companies may be finding that the ramp of manufacturing is coming a bit quicker to them than maybe they even knew a year ago.
Then I want to give Tom Marcelli a big shout out.
Hey.
Chatted to you in a long time, my guys. A big shout out. You missed North Carolina for the eIPP.
Kitty Hawk.
Then Max says, I think the Archer earnings is what I thought it would. Nothing major, no timeline updates. In my honest opinion, while the lack of information is odd, perhaps lessons were learned on past promises. I am sorry you feel that way, my guy.
Mm-hmm.
Archer Defense, I think it is a reality we need to see piloted VTOL, and that is all we can ask for. eIPP will be CTOL and hopefully VTOL. But
Let's see.
they didn't need the eIPP to prove it's possible to fly a mission. They would show it anyway, it's not possible. Dak says Archer now has 100% means of compliance. That's a big deal. Nobody else, including Joby, has 100%. Company takes years to get this. Is the lawsuit still happening this month, IVW? So I believe it is. Joby's one's been pushed back till next year, but Joby versus Archer should be
March 20th. Yeah, you got it. Yeah. So, and honestly, what will happen with that? I don't know, because none of these companies have been talking about it since. I mean, it's not like I expect really that Archer's going to come out. I mean, this is a lawsuit, so you're probably not going to want to hear or have the company speak on stuff that may be done during there's a D word, not defamation. It's that D word where they get you in a room and you have to answer everything. I'm forgetting it. Somebody that knows legal terms, they'll bring it to my mind. The basically case coming up on March 20th, and honestly, the way that Joby had to lean in and didn't take the shots at Archer, and I think Archer's biggest thing is, I think maybe for Archer and the if you want to call them shots at Joby, you didn't hear him taking many of the sense of like payload shots. In my opinion, it wasn't like, oh, we have a superior machine and nobody else can do what we can do. They spoke to why their aircraft was redesigned from what makers' specs were. But I think maybe when we talk about just slapping the hybrid powertrain on, these defense programs, these are going to be, especially in these next few years, the biggest, largest sums of money. I mean, we can talk about tranches from manufacturing partners and this and that, but this is like literally the government leaning in and wanting to buy your product and giving your government partner the ability to greenlight you to move forward with your aircraft build and your aircraft program that you're working with them in. So I think Adam, like you said, I think he was expecting to maybe hear news within probably the last 6 months to a year on that program of record. So, it's just really on Andrew now, kind of getting everything sealed up. And, maybe that's just kind of him speaking to why maybe Archer would be a more superior product to have in that program of record with Andrew, as opposed to going with and having that budget spent on L3 Harris and Joby with the specific powertrain that they would be using on their aircraft. So maybe that's just kind of stamping in that he definitely wants this program of record to come through. And I'm sure he will update us once he gets that cash.
Guys, still over 500 people here. I still can't believe that. Smash that like button. Also, if you're on X, do follow us, the Hustle Brothers YT, and Dylan is Dylan11. Do follow the two of us on X. And also bang that subscribe button if you're there on YouTube. Make that thing up top spin round for me, please. Then we have Tom says they don't need to use conforming craft for eIPP. Dax says whistleblower lawsuit against Joby. No, this is the Joby versus Archer, the George Kavork one. The one that's been moved back for Joby was Aerosonics, if I remember.
That's correct. Yep.
But yeah, it didn't surprise me that Archer didn't speak about, look, Joby bringing them to court and then them bringing vertical aerospace court. It's like a big circle in it, and bringing each other to court. It didn't surprise me because that is just pure negative news on all standpoints, either being taken to court or bringing some to court. It just it's not what you need to hear, is it?
I agree.
Joey says Archer still up 1% on the day is a good sign. Exactly what Dylan said. We've seen 20% plus drops after bad earnings these days. See AMD after their earnings collapse massively.
It's not just the eVTOLs that can. Yeah, you're right. It's not just the eVTOLs that can have a bad earnings. You get Duolingo reporting and bad daily active user numbers and such. So yeah, market can definitely take anybody down 20%. So consolidating it.
Duolingo, my missus does that every single day. Learning Spanish.
Okay, nice. How's she doing?
So yeah,
learning. I like it.
Joey says tomorrow will tell, I guess, but if the entire day is down, then it'll be down, assuming. I'm sticking with my prediction now if it'll be green, if not flat, but I think it'll be green. And I'm gonna take even 0.01% as green.
Take it. It's a win.
Adam mentioned carrying passengers multiple times.
Yeah.
Is that in the eIPP? I assume that was in the UAE.
I'm thinking UAE. That's my initial thoughts in it. Just for timeline and readiness of aircraft, I would initially think that would be eIPP. I wouldn't, let's kind of give the grace maybe of either of these companies 6 months, before we're seeing an actual passenger on there. And again, most likely VIP passenger, at that point too.
IVW says, did they not say this year? Yeah, in the shareholder letter they said this year. Vertical integration versus CATs, not that hard to understand. Adam even stated it in the letter. Tom says, means of compliance is stage 2 of the certification process. If they are potential minor design or testing changes, as Tom left open, stage 2 may need to be reopened. Bag says, he said it in the call, passengers in the eIPP. Okay, fair enough. I missed that.
Thank you.
Guy.
Thanks, Bag.
This is why Joby leaves stage 2 at 97%. That's actually really interesting to know, Tom. Thank you so much for actually clearing that up. So stage 2 is left open for any minor changes that's needed. So they'll be able to close that out pretty quickly.
But on the flip side, why wouldn't you close it out if you, I don't know. I think we could apples and oranges that. It's like, do you close it out to reopen it, or do you leave it open to have no answer out there and eventually close it out? And so, yeah, like you said, it's, and again, on this one, I'm going to scroll again. I don't think we got you know how we get that graph from Archer usually on the shareholder letter on test certifications and such like that? I was looking through the shareholder deck. It didn't look like that one was included. So, definitely more research in the sense of what's going on. But it's so tough because I don't want to blend Joby and Archer here together. Joby has been flying multiple aircraft for a year now in a VTOL configuration. So Archer now, as we know, as of Sunday, has started their VTOL of 704AX to then roll into the VTOL transition flight test. So it's I don't know. I guess for me again, I don't want to have an expectation that Archer is going to go and conquer the world and do everything within 1 month. I think it's been shown, and even through the calls, I think either of the companies would have stamped pretty hard if they would have been going through FAA within 3 months, and passing all of those tests. So I think it is a mix between, we're hearing what software can possibly do to adjust an aircraft's ability or capability. And then again, we're seeing what software can do to reach 100% means of compliance and then also help the aircraft maturity for that company. But again, it's two companies kind of building an aircraft a different way, one vertical integration, one parts off the shelf. And again, as they were talking during the call, basically beefing up that supply chain so that with that green light of type of the TC, that they're going to have the parts on hand and the liquidity on hand to be able to procure everything they need to mass ramp up and scale these aircraft. But again, don't expect it to come tomorrow.
Guys, bang that like button, bang that subscribe button. I'm about to do a giveaway.
Nice.
You have to be subscribed and you also have to bang that like button. So I'll give you literally 30 seconds to get that done. Dax says TIA activities this year. You don't say that with FAA in the room. I think Joby Investor Watch actually said that nicely. They did say TIA activities with the FAA as soon as this year. So I wouldn't bank on TIA this year. I hope it happens, but I wouldn't put it as certain. The FAA certification was using a Part 23 airplane, basically, which meant a CTOL. This will get confusing to investors thinking they're eVTOL certified. WHD says, anyway, to sign up to be a test passenger, the way it's going, voltage before they begin surface. Right, I'm going to do a giveaway if I can here.
Nice.
Because I promised one, the Joby one, and then I got banned myself. So
you banned yourself, right? No, never.
Yeah.
But no, this will be an interesting one to go back, kind of re-listen, kind of clip out, get some notes on, and just kind of really get a feel for the expectation of our. Now, expectation is always a tough word to put on, but again, as we can take some of the verbiage and take them as forward-looking statements as we want them to come forward. I think just like you pointed out on that last comment, these companies are using the words as soon as, and we've seen that happen where those timelines have been pushed back. So let's not say that as soon as means that it's going to be starting, quote unquote, as soon as. So if they say it's going to be starting as soon as November of 2026, that doesn't mean that it's going to be November of 2026, but that's what they're setting a possible guide for. So we have to be, I think, open-minded for as soon to maybe have a 3 to 6 month cadence on what that truly means when it's being spoken of. So that's all.
I tried to give 5 memberships there, and at the moment, only 4 people have come up. Tom Mycetti, big shout out, my guy. Tom got one.
Always appreciate you, Tom. And I hope things are well in NC.
D. Herman, Custard Chips has got one.
Nice.
I will do another giveaway in about 5 minutes, so make sure you've banged that subscribe button and bang that like button.
Nice.
I think Dylan said it perfectly there. Big shout out, my guy.
We
I
try.
actually,
And shout out,
I
Joby.
love
Yeah.
what Joby Investor Watch does
Yeah.
put out content-wise on X. If you haven't, make sure to follow Joby Investor Watch on
Agree.
X. If Joby, you do put up a lot of the flight paths of
Yeah.
the S4, don't you, my
Yeah.
guy? So big shout out for everything you do there. Is there anything that you were disappointed about in the call, my guy?
You know, maybe again, as we're looking to passenger services in Q3 into UAE, I know again that Joby wasn't able to be asked this question as directly, be it that conditions were different last week. But you know, maybe hearing a little bit more confidence that the passenger services would be going out and it maybe wasn't so conflict driven on that would have been something that just kind of would have been nice, where it's like, oh no, you know, our plan is, yet under these conditions we are being precautious for X, Y, and Z reason. So that I think I would like to hear a little bit more about. And let me see real quick. There's a lot of path on the 2028 Olympics. The CapEx wasn't bothering me, so I did that. I did a 2x multiplier on that, so it looks like that's coming in at about 320 to 360 for half the year, which is actually pretty much in line with Joby's 340 to 370 spend. So you know, kind of no worries there. Kind of, I would say on both, because you know, kind of, if I'm seeing equal spend, that means that both companies are still needing about 150 million per quarter, if not a little bit more, as we start doing a little bit more with that. And one thing that I maybe this would be something that I leave the last thought on, but you know, we didn't hear much to anything about Project Next, and again, that's something that is basically a March catalyst that is supposed to be going on. So again, you know, me and Liam talked a week or two ago where, you know, we kind of see the pictures of the tail end of what seems to be the GKN, Anduril, and Archer partnership aircraft. But I'm really curious to see what the rest of that aircraft looks like. So, you know, if Project Next is able to be announced in March, and if that is a straight tie-in to Anduril, you know, is it programs of record that we're looking for just on U.S. soil, or again, what program? You know, does that bring in some defense budget money on that project as well from that side? So, kind of curious again on where Archer will play their role in there, and again, what division of that pie of cash will actually be allotted to Archer, and as they're playing a very specific role in the build out, as opposed again to GKN, who is a very tried and true aerospace company. And again, you have Anduril, who again has a lot of the technology and capabilities under their factory doors, and they're bringing Archer in again as a specialist for what Archer can do in their lane. So that, and just kind of getting into you know, and I know it's tough because it's an earnings call, but maybe some general projected revenue guidance, be it through Omen through the rest of the year. And yeah, I would say more on Omen because we wouldn't be able to speak. So with Omen and Project NYX, maybe hearing a little bit more on the revenue capabilities on those. How about you?
Guys, who wants me to travel to their UK facility? I want to go down there. I want to have a look. I also want to have a look at vertical aerospace.
Throw the yes and no's in there.
What I was disappointed on the call,
the
numbers. The numbers of the aircraft. I think it was the most earnest question, especially when we were saying about the payload and Joby and how they dodged that question. I was just, you can't go around dodging questions on earnings calls. So the numbers of aircraft would be what I was disappointed about. Otherwise, I am pretty gobsmacked about that earnings. I actually think a lot thought it would be a lot worse than anticipated. And look,
that's fair.
Sometimes when you're dreading a call, it's a lot better than you can imagine. Guys, we have nearly 600 people in here now. How are we going to do this? smash that like button. And again, for the last time, smash that subscribe button if you want to be in
I like
for
that.
a chance to win one of these memberships where I'm going to fire 5 more out, and that'll be my last giveaway tonight. So I'll give you 5 minutes, not even 5 minutes, I'll give you 1 minute to bang that subscribe button.
And again, I think I know me and Liam will be doing this most likely probably right after the live ends. So, me and him will probably be going for like another 30-hour, whatever, let alone tonight. Not just kind of falling into tomorrow, but it actually, again, it makes me really excited to really get the podcast version of this going. And this is not, I really don't mean this in like a shameless promotion sort of way, but just in the sense of being able to digest what we're hearing and being able to like put that out in a certain content form, and taking that time, because again, it's like coming off of these calls, we've done probably 4 to 6 of them for each company, and going in, I'm going in as an investor, as a fan, as an enthusiast, but I'm also trying to wear that analyst hat. I might be wearing an Archer hat right now, but I'm still going to go in there with a open, clear mind, not to hear what I want to hear and to hear what's being said on the call. So, it's always one of those things where, I'm taking notes and starring things, and, I always want to give you guys the most accurate feelings as the call ends, and as I always will give my honest opinion. But I think it's going to be really cool to digest this call, reread that shareholder letter, and compare that really to, obviously said this is obvious, but what was being said on the call, and just see what mirrors in when he's talking about defense. Does that mirror into what he was saying on the shareholder letter? When we look into CTOL regimes versus VTOL regimes, even with the eIPP, again, I understand that with this industry, it is a VTOL industry, so it's not a CTOL industry that's being marketed and sold to us. But I can't say that I'm gonna hate, and I'll just stick with the Archer side on this, that if when the eIPP initially rolls out, and if their aircraft is 703AX, that they is the first one that's piloted for the eIPP, I'm still personally okay with that, because we're still proving out data. And when that aircraft is flying above someone's head, those landing gears will basically either be invisible, to the eye, and the decibel levels that these aircraft are going to be putting out will be barely noticeable as well. But being able to look up and see that aircraft, again, like you say, to most that wouldn't even be able to, even some in the helicopter industry that wouldn't be able to tell you what an electrical vertical takeoff and landing helicopter would be, looking up in the air and seeing this aircraft that, again, it's flying like an airplane, it's got rotors like a helicopter, and now I'm curious on it. And again, let alone the coverage that we're going to do on it, I would imagine that your CNBCs and your Bloomberg, once you get the IPPs in those fights, you'll probably get some initial interviews that we coming in from the CEOs on that. But again, I think with strong support from the chat and from the channel, I think we have a great opportunity to actually have 2026 be like what I'm trying to like maybe frame as like a year of interviews for you guys and for the channel, where, whether it's bringing Adam in, bringing Joe Ben in, I'd love to talk to Tom, or anybody that Tom would have on his engineering team that he would be able to bring us in, and we can ask him the questions on, what is important about the CTOL flight regime and a test regime for you. Not what I think of it and such like that, but why is that important to you, improving out that tech and that concepts, and then maybe getting to some questions on, as they open their VTOL envelope up, their test envelope up, just any, like, I would say, like, any, again, I try not to use expectations, but general expectations that they're looking to have from their aircraft. And maybe again, then, and this is where the interviews are good, and you'll find out if they'll say it or not. But again, if something was seen during those testings and did need to be refined on the aircraft, again, because like we said with Joby, Joby didn't dodge the payload question. They did answer it. So you have Archer that, again, did a little bit more of the dodge on the question instead of giving roundabout numbers and such. So, yeah, so it'll be very interesting this year. in the interviews that we can procure for you guys and get on board. And I think, just as important as the CNBC and the Bloomberg is to some retail investors and maybe showing off like that an institutional support can be behind this because it's on CNBC or something like that. Really looking forward to 2026 being the year where the Hustle Brothers are bringing the interviews to you guys. And that way, again, we want to know what questions you have. And that way, we can be that platform to help, kind of cross that bridge and get those, asked and answered to you for you guys.
Bag promotes Hustle Brothers all the time. I've actually seen that bag, and I hope you get a membership because you actually deserve it.
Here. Yeah.
Guys, if we could anyone on X now, I've just dropped the link in the comments there to YouTube. Come across. It's completely free to bang the subscribe button. Yeah. What I'm going to do, I'm going to drop 5. Then I'm going to do something that we've planned for a long time, but we've never done. And I'm putting Dylan on the spot here.
Okay.
Do you know how we normally have a post-stream talk?
Yes, we do.
Let's do a 20-minute post-stream just for members.
I like it, man. I'm down. Absolutely. I like that. It's
going to be a lot more chilled out. You'll see the proper us look. I think we're the same on and off camera, but you're going to see exactly what we're like off camera.
Yeah.
So
you can report back if we're different, because I promise we're going to be the same dudes. But yeah, feel free. Yeah. But no, I'm sorry, Liam. Keep going. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Then Joey, okay, got to go. Head out, 2 toddlers, work 12 hours, and listen while eating dinner. Joey,
yeah, you get my champ stamp of the night, man. Yeah, you bless you, man. But no, Joey, for you singularly, man, have a great night. Keep those 2 toddlers healthy, and I if you ever want to talk some toddler talk, hit my DM and we can definitely chat about that, because I got the young one too. So have a great night. Hope dinner was good, and we'll check you out on the next one for sure.
Grandpa, do it, Liam. VTOL 3.0, baby, do it. Max, I think we should consider doing a roast of people in the industry.
Not today. Nah.
There's plenty of other channels for that, and I won't do it. There's not a fear. Successful day, in my opinion. I really think it is.
Okay, I like that.
Going from prototypes to mass production is where my concern is at. What do you think? Yeah, and I think that's what Adam was trying to hit at. That was the third part. There was the performance was one of them. The mass scalability was one of them. And what was the third of the triad?
Were we talking about like scaling, manufacturing, and ramping? But he was talking about like drag.
When they designed the aircraft, it was.
You got 2 out of the 3. Yeah, we'll get the 3rd. Yeah, but what you thinking? Yeah.
Archer Defense Daily, what do you think of Keir Starmer? Mate, I'm not getting involved in politics. Champ stamp later, brothers. Big shout out, Joey.
I know that was from the top of the head. So that you are my champ stamp tonight, brother.
Right, here we go. Here's the giveaway, and then myself and Dylan will do a members only live stream.
I like it.
So
what do we got? I'm always curious. Curious.
Oh, I forgot to say you also have to have membership gifting turned on. KT cards.
Nice.
Kino, was it Key? I can't pronounce your name. Hey, there's one guy.
Yeah.
I have no clue what your name is. Sober Soldier got one. Mr. FO got one. And Worker Wonder Why got one. So
congrats.
Meet us in about 30 seconds for a members only live stream. My name's Liam. One of the host bros. It's been 2 years since I started this project up. This has been our biggest earnings yet. We still have about 600 of you guys there. We are officially the largest, the most active Archer Aviation channel on YouTube. We will get Adam for you. We will get Joe Ben for you. I promise you that. But you know what? I've had fun tonight. I've had a lot of fun tonight. Dylan, any final thoughts?
No, I agree. Tonight was awesome. It's really everything I could have wanted to look for. It was a big crowd community. And that's what I love to see. I love to see the chat going back and forth. And there was something Liam had said there, and of course now it's slipping my mind. But no, I think it was, again, we've wrapped up Q4 for these companies. Let's go ahead and we'll keep deep diving the thesis, and just looking forward to, again, growing the community. And most importantly, I just hope everybody has a great night moving forward. Everybody wakes up tomorrow, feels good. We'll continue to deep dive. We'll figure out what's going on with the companies. We'll figure out what's going on in the markets tomorrow. But I just want to personally thank everybody who tuned in. This is amazing to be able to chat with you guys, to get your thoughts and opinions. It helps open my mind. So I could talk for 20 and 30 minutes on just my appreciation and thank you to the chat. So from me to you guys, I hope you guys have an excellent night. A great day tomorrow. We'll be back with the Archer Pod really soon. And looking forward to talking with some of you guys after the stream ends. So, yeah.
I just wanted to say back, I made a post about how vertical aerospace sucks, and I got 30,000 views. Maybe make some videos bashing them. No, mate. Do you know what? It's so easy to destroy anything in this life. This is what humans are great at doing. Yeah. But it's harder to build things up. I made a video on Tesla that got 24,000 views on YouTube. Yeah. And I didn't have to bash anyone. So let's not, people. This is why there's such that on X between the two communities, because that is what gets views. That's what gets follows. That's what gets engagement. I'm not about that. Let's not collide with each other. Let's build up the industry together. But yeah, my name's Ian, one of the Huss brothers. This is my good co-host Dylan. We'll see you at the members only live stream about 2 minutes. Right, guys. Until then.
See you in a few.